This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Now call to order the June 8th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Our first item is a notice of intent for duplex and solar canopy construction at 100 Bassett Brook Drive. File number 1510338.
Good evening. Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group, here on behalf of Lakewood Communities. Patrick, CEO Lathrop is here with me. I know Doug Searle from our office was here last time, presented the project to you. And so I don't know whether it's worth recapping and just sort of reframing where everything is just for the purposes of, the commission, or if you want to just dive into some of the specific questions, concerns.
Yeah, I think we could dive into questions and concerns. We don't need a recap.
Okay.
Is that fair?
So I guess backing up a little bit, and this is just where the thought about a recap is it's the project as it exists now was really permitted in two different phases. The original project was in 1996. There was a whole set of stormwater, report and information provided at that point with a notice of intent. There was a subsequent phase of development in 2006 that also had a pretty comprehensive notice of intent application. There have been multiple application notice of intents filed after that, but most of it there's been really no development to little development. It's been mostly trail maintenance, conservation restrictions, various things like that. So it really what has been developed there is really in two pieces. Within that large project, speaking to the overall stormwater system, because I understand that's where a lot of concerns lie. It's a complicated system, as you might imagine. There's, I think, at least 7 different basins. There's multiple other discharges in different locations. Both notices of intent had analyzed those systems in different programs. So trying to compare apples to apples is really challenging. What we try to do is look at least with these specific project locations, is look at where that stormwater is currently going. And then what we could do to mitigate any of the impacts as a result of additional pervious area or untreated water. And so these are, as you can imagine, in 2 different parts of the campus. So there are 2 different stormwater systems. They go to 2 different locations. Ultimately, the same wetland resource area. It's 50, 70, 60 acre wetland system, but they all discharge eventually to that wetland system. The maintenance building, the maintenance site is, I think, ultimately adds just under 1,000 square feet. And I'm just pulling numbers from recollection, about 1,000 square feet of additional impervious area to that drainage system, and that's located behind the inn. And so what we did in follow up to this was then further analyze, this was the amount of additional water that was coming off of that, a result of that 1,000 square feet. How does that impact the existing system? We had to delve into that specific drainage area, parse apart all the old reports, try to compare what was permitted then, what was permitted now, how to compare the two. And so, the original reports and stormwater designs were to the 25-year storm. Today's standards to the 100. So, it seemed appropriate to compare at least the 25-year storm as best we could to, the previous conditions. This is speaking to the specific drain, this SC1 that you see there is the specific drainage area that encompasses where the maintenance building is, where that solar work is. And so what we try to do is, add 1,000 square feet of additional impervious area to that system and try to compare it as best we could. I forget what the additional, it was about 2/10 of a CFS within the 25-year period. That basin discharges overflow currently. So it was designed to attenuate and handle, the 25-year storm. Anything beyond there was designed to overflow. This adds, 1/10 of a cubic foot in the 25-year storm, which again, given that, and then going back, the larger drainage analysis for this was a pre and post of the overall project. So when you compare, if you scroll up, I think was where we, maybe it's further down. So the pre-development, you can see in the 25-year storm to that ultimate discharge point was, in the top line, third one over is 44, 0.8 CFS. That was the peak flow in the pre-condition. In this post-condition, adding, what we did down at the bottom of the column, which is the, most conservative using current HydroCAD models, was 41. So again, it's hard to compare, the current impacts on that overall stormwater system. It adds a negligible amount in terms of the pre and post flows to what it was originally designed to. Is ultimately what this says.
So maybe let's pause here, because that is one of our outstanding questions. One of our outstanding questions that I flagged for the commission is, are we satisfied with this analysis of the existing system for the 1,300 square feet of additional impervious area that they're tying into the existing stormwater system? Or what questions do we still have remaining about that?
I'm on the first letter back in May 22nd or something. It said the change in impervious area was like 2395 or something. How is it?
So there's a difference. There's right. So there's a total of 3,000 square or just over 2,200 square feet of a new impervious area. 1,300 square feet of that is building area that we're trying to discharge directly and recharge it, infiltrate it back into the ground through a dry well. So we're trying to take that water offline and not impact the existing system. So what does end up going back to the existing system is the remainder, which is just under 1,000 square feet.
So I misspoke. It's under 1,000, not 1,300. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So in that dry well, so how much of this, what storms does that handle?
It handles the 2-year storm. I mean, these are, they're not enormous dry wells. It's, we're trying to attenuate for the peak flows. And so it deals with, some capacity during that first flush during those original, initial storms. But just like any of the other basins, beyond, I think some of them, even in a 10-year storm, overflow, as they're currently designed. That's just that they're designed to manage the outflows from those basins. And so this is simply, overflowing in a controlled, much more controlled environment than trying to send it to pipe it to a larger system and impact those flows.
So I guess we're talking right now about the part of the site with the canopies, with the maintenance garage, with the dumpster pad.
Yes.
Relocation.
Right.
Yep. And when it does overflow, then the water is just gonna go overland to the resource area at that spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be vegetated. It'll be a small overflow rate at the surface, but it'll just flow overland through vegetated surfaces.
And what part of that's the parking lot that goes to the dry well, or is that?
No, that's just the clean roof water. Yeah, we tried to take the roof water offline in both instances, and so that's why the two dry wells. The other location, again, which is it's a little bit of different scope, but it was actually a reduction in impervious area that's going to the existing system on that site.
Yeah, so the parking is expanding a little bit. It's gonna have a canopy over it. And so the increase in impervious cover has the solar canopy over it. And then the roof leaders from that go to the dry well.
No, from the solar go to the existing system.
Oh, from the solar.
It's just, it's cleaner that in that it's, doesn't have to flow over the parking lot.
So the 1,000 feet that is from the solar canopy over the parking lot, the 1,000 feet of new impervious is the piece that's tying into the existing system that Jeff did the analysis of to determine if it was capable of handling the additional 1,000 feet of new impervious area. The dry well is just for the maintenance building that's nearby it. So the roof leaders on the maintenance building.
So what about the 3 parking spots?
So those will be covered by the solar canopy.
Oh,
Just trying to square that out really is, all that's, effectively clean roof water also. We just don't have the capacity to, infiltrate that on the site anywhere.
Before we keep going on the dry wells, I think just because this project has multiple components, staying on, is there any questions or concerns about the tie-in to the existing stormwater system?
Go back up to the table.
Did you do these calculations?
Which ones? These? Well, so these,
The capacity of the existing system, how?
so we took those numbers from the original stormwater report. So we tried to input, at least the, surface areas, the coverages, the rainfall amounts, into, from the previous model, because we just had a PDF version, inputted those numbers into a current HydroCAD version. And then ran our calculations based on that, comparisons based on that.
The pre-development and post-development labels here are pre and post 1996 development.
1996, yes.
So only the bottom here speaks to the new condition.
Correct. Right. Yeah, and this was just again the eastern wetlands. So there were a couple of different, this broke it up a little bit differently in a post-development condition, because it was various drainage boundaries, drainage sheds, but these all analyzed the top 2 lines were the pre and post to that eastern wetland, which was the ultimate, analysis point. And then that's what we were comparing. That was the closest, ultimate.
Can you explain how you're adding impervious, but you're suggesting that?
Because it was under to begin with. If you go up to the top, under the post-development, so take, for example, the 25-year storm, just because that's what we, spoke to. So in the pre-condition, it was 44.8 CFS. The post-development project brought it down to 41.5. And so what we analyzed is that additional flow going there brought it up to 41.67, which increases the flow, but it's still below the pre-development analysis. We were tasked with analyzing that existing system, and that was the analysis, was the pre and post flows at that drainage point.
But you need to show that the proposed condition isn't changing, increasing the flows from existing, not from before 1996, any of the project.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. I mean, that's the word that would be trying to, we can't, that's a different model. That's a different analysis. We've got an existing stormwater system that we're adding, so we've got to compare it to what it was, the permitted system. I don't know how we can compare that to current standards, I guess is the challenge. It was designed in 1996 under different standard, different, numbers. So all we can do is try to compare as closely as possible the impact.
That is in fact the question, right? Can you, under current standards, add water to this system and have it be currently meeting standards?
So we would have to do a completely new, to say what you're doing, we would need to analyze that current drainage system as a drainage system and pick an analysis point that is further down. That is further downstream and effectively, compare. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that works. I don't know. I mean, that's opening up a different.
So I guess what I remember thinking at the last meeting was that the work at this part of the site was relatively small in scope, and a lot of it did go to the existing stormwater system, and knowing how the existing stormwater system was sized and would manage this flow, relative to the standards that were in place at the time was what I was interested in. Because it does seem relatively minor, but like Julie, your point is legitimate in some ways. It's like, what standards does the existing discharge have to, or what standards does the increased impervious cover have to be held to? I guess it would be, the answer is, like, I'm personally okay looking at, to me, this seems like it's not overwhelming the current system compared to what it was designed for. It was a pretty small flow or whatever, but I don't know what the right answer is for what standards that increased impervious would be held to.
Sir, please, do you want to say something?
Yeah, if that's okay with the chair.
Sure.
So back in 1996, the stormwater policy was actually regulatory. But it would still use TP40 for runoff calculation. The current regulations are still TP40 to come up with the amount of water for the 210, 25, and 100. So is the increase, the new standards, stormwater standards should be updated. They keep saying it's going to be tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. It's going to be using NOAA 14 plus. So I'm just wondering, I wouldn't bother doing a new watershed analysis. I would just say with the new NOAA 14 plus data, is the basin still going to be able to handle that additional volume? The difference between TP40 and NOAA 14 plus. That's all I care about, really. It's a simple thing.
Because the NOAA 14 plus data gives us the information about what our precipitation for our region is actually likely to be.
Right.
But that changes the baseline of what the original.
No, you leave the baseline alone. If you have the volume available, you already have the baseline, right, Jeff? From 1996.
Yeah.
How much the basin can handle. So if you can handle the additional 1 or 2 inches, whatever it is.
Well, I think further, if you scroll, I think we did take a look at the capacity of that.
It's the O&M plan.
I understand the commission's concerns, but I wouldn't bother doing a new watershed analysis as long as the original data was correct and they can handle the NOAA 14 plus additional volume.
Where am I looking at this?
Yeah, it's right. I just can't remember exactly where it was because we looked at this.
Has anybody ever seen the basin over top any storm?
I've only been there 2.5 years, so you see that.
I think Jeff said it overflows now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It was, the current system was designed to handle the 25-year storm. So that's going to be the.
So
That's why we chose the furthest downstream analysis point as the point of measure.
So the previous stormwater policy would have been, and I don't remember them at all. I was practicing mostly in Connecticut back in those days, but it was something like, when you say handle the 25-year storm, that means like no peak, like pre and post runoff, post development runoff would be equal or lower than for 25-year storms or less, basically, right?
Right.
Whereas now as we're looking at 100-year storms, as Mark points out, we have different like rainfall depths that will eventually be ones that we're looking
Eventually,
at.
because we're still using the same
Right.
TP40 as you were in 1996.
Right. I wasn't even thinking about rainfall depths. I was just thinking, like we're at this additional impervious cover. Do we does the system meet the stormwater standard or the policy that was in place at the time it was constructed? But we could also ask the question, would it meet the current stormwater management standards, which it wasn't designed for? So my assumption would be no. And I'm not sure which standards we'd really be looking at, honestly.
Well,
Yeah, my assumption would be that the new development needs to be treated by a system that meets the current standards.
Well, any new impervious area would be required to fully comply with the current standards.
Right.
Any redevelopment of an existing degraded area is only maximum extent practicable.
This isn't a redevelopment section though, right? Like you're,
and this is all buffered, this is just buffer zone, right?
right, but it's existing mode area, but it's not existing
Yeah.
impervious.
Yeah, and I guess, and ultimately, it's, again, going back to the, limited, this is a, currently a buffer zone only project and our, at least measure and, beyond the stormwater piece was, is this causing a direct alteration of the, adjacent resource area using, the definitions that are provided, which includes, a host of things that, I don't think any of this does. So, in addition to just the information about stormwater, trying to minimize, what this is doing to it, take the notion of low impact development standards and try to infiltrate and take water offline to the extent that we can with the solar piece, being clean roof water being directly discharged, and then the roof water from both projects. That seemed like the most the most favorable outcome to try and achieve what we're trying to achieve.
But you are required to meet the standards, and I don't know that we've demonstrated that yet.
Well, okay, so I mean, we did go through. So which standards? I guess that's for.
Well, I think what Mark said agrees with what I was under the impression, that any new impervious has to meet the current standard, which is the 100-year storm evaluation. So just because you could do it for a 25-year storm back in 1996 doesn't mean we can do that 30 years later for the new area.
Understood. And just trying to keep perspective of the whole project. I mean, this, we've got, an existing retirement community that's trying to move a dumpster enclosure and build a solar canopy. And it's a very, de minimis project, all in buffer zone within previously developed area. It may not be impervious, but it was previously altered to make way for this, for the project overall. And keeping in mind that, the project in total over the years has really been trying to scale back, any future development into and encroachment into resource areas. These are little pockets where they can make minor improvements.
So the stormwater standards needs to be met for point source discharges, right?
10.56B, we regulate stormwater, the water quality for point source discharges. Yes, we don't regulate it for sheet flow.
So in my mind, if there's a dry well that's designed for a 2-year storm and it overflows, then the water is going to be concentrated in that spot and it's going to go to the adjacent BVW or whatever as basically a point source discharge.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we're moving on to, I want to have this conversation about dry wells, but I do think there's value in us keeping them separate.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
do we have anything, how do we want to proceed on the existing analysis of the stormwater system?
Has anybody thought about porous pavement?
It's for the canopy, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you can reduce porous, or you can put porous pavement on over, or take the existing pavement out, replace it with porous pavement, That's gonna help significantly, I would think.
Well, that's an interesting.
But I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't know as though the site, given all the existing utilities and groundwater and conditions would, yeah, it's not a. Because we did look at that with some of the previous development projects as an alternative way to manage stormwater. It just wasn't feasible for all the depths and characteristics you need. I mean, I don't know if we could take some of that, we could take that roof water and look from the solar canopy and try to discharge that additional impervious area, that 1,000 square feet that is going to the detention basin off to another dry well or something in a green area. That would be an option. And there is no additional flow going to the existing system. I don't know, we're not trying to create additional flow to that system. We're not trying to create a point source. We're trying to do, what is most practicable and fix the standards as best we can.
To me, the 1,000 square feet going to the existing system that has a very much larger impervious cover associated with it is really pretty de minimis.
But we also have the problem with our town stormwater system, which doesn't allow us to parse out projects, and the fact that we know this is one piece of a larger thing that's coming. And if we have 1,000 feet here and 1,000 feet there, and suddenly we're over our thresholds, then we have a real problem.
And again, we're not, this may or may not be part of a larger thing. I know we've talked about it, but it is still very early in the planning process. And as we made very clear in the beginning, the only reason that the cottages are being included currently is because, again, going back to the limited available, opportunities on this overall campus for modest expansions. This was one spot that, has been, looked at for years. And so trying to keep our foot in the door, whether they do or do not, do that project. I think at the end of the day, at least in terms of how we would manage that stormwater, it would be very much the same as, what we're proposing now is trying to disconnect from the existing system, put that into dry wells, infiltrate.
But you see what I'm saying, Jeff? If we agree that 1,000 feet is de minimis now, and then a year from now it's another 1,000 feet, and then it's another 1,000 feet, it's no longer de minimis, and we've failed to treat any of it to meet the standards, and that becomes a real issue, I think.
Yeah, so we have no problem with following all practical rules possible. We wish to do so. I'm pressed for time. We've been planning on this for over a year in terms of the solar project, and have to safe harbor this by July 4th. That means I have to put another $80,000 in essentially next week to be able to capitalize on the rebates. So I want to meet all the rules and regulations. I just can't keep postponing it. That is why we have to rush on the solar right now, and I have to fit the facilities building it all up. Also have solar right behind this canopy, and really limited for space in that area.
Sure.
Let me update you a little. I'm not supposed to be telling you this because nothing's official. One of the low impact development proposals for stormwater standards are to have an increase in buffer zone vegetation. Go from lawn to shrubs, trees, some kind of understory as a credit. So I'm saying, in order for him to get his order, I don't know the site, never been there, just looked at it in aerials. Is that a possibility?
Well, we're also proposing to take down a bunch of trees because of the solar canopy. So.
Right, but you've got a huge site there. Or a significantly sized site. Again, just looking at the areas, that's all. Or what about porous pavement? Finding a place 1,000 feet here. Is there a couple thousand feet of pavement that could be removed and porous pavement and put in? Again, I don't know the soils. Jeff was saying, utilities underground. I don't know. I'm throwing an idea out to help. That's all.
Well, I guess that was one of the reasons I thought of taking the roof water from the solar canopy off. We could, just because of the cost and complexities with a porous, achieve the same goals of trying to compensate for that additional impervious area, and infiltrate all of that. And that we can do because we have a little bit more control over where we put that. We could discharge that to some lawn area that fits over, adjacent to the roadway. It certainly would be a possibility for that, additional impervious area.
Do we have any soils information for that area yet? Because I haven't seen it.
For right around the inn, no.
Where we would
We
do
have
the test
information from a whole bunch of number of other locations.
So there's more test pits than the one that, the latest I saw only had one.
I mean, that was the one that was relevant to the cottage location. We've got others scattered throughout the site. I just don't know. I'd have to line up, which ones are closest, but we do have a number that were done, over a period of years, but we've collected a pretty big file of test pits. So a lot of it has just been trying to, see what we have available. And then if we need to go back out, some of them, at least as these locations, these spots have moved, sometimes we've realized we need more information, but it's generally, we've got a pretty good sense of the soils out there, and using some of the old drainage reports, and a lot of that information is additional.
I mean, I think if we could infiltrate all of this and not be sending new impervious to the stormwater system, that probably alleviates some of the questions, but we're going to need to see actual soils data for the area that we're looking to infiltrate the water.
So yeah, perhaps now it's time to turn to our tested information and the dry wells, as those two relate to each other. So we have, this is the test pit log for the one test pit we have information for. We'll pull up the sheet that shows its location. So it's over by the duplex. It's in the yellow right here, and that's from December 17th of 2025. And it shows, and Jeff, am I correct in saying that's at the same contour line? It's at the same.
It is not the same contour line. Yep. Yeah, I would say, right.
And it shows estimated seasonal high groundwater at 60 inches.
And do we have a detail on the ground wells?
The ground wells are,
And-
the ground wells
and
are
it is- yep.
4 feet, 4 inches.
So we would have less than a foot of clearance.
So we could, right. So that's what I was just, and admittedly, as we scrambled to get this in, as fast as we could because of the, the solar piece, we were racing around trying to collect soils information, again, research what we had available, dig new holes, orchestrate this whole thing. So admittedly, that is a little low. We can certainly move it up gradient and pick up another 18 inches in that location, or put it out on the other side. There are, to the east of the building, is sort of the high point, but there are certainly locations where we could modify the dry well detail. It's not we can, that's something that we can easily adjust. But I would prefer to move it uphill and we can keep that detail, but that would seem the way to achieve.
So are we looking at this now though, because that test pit is at the same contour level as?
No, we're
No,
just going
this
to
is
our
just the
only
only
piece. It's the
data
only
that we
piece
have.
of test pit information we have.
So what's the relationship with this test pit and the solar?
None.
No, this is just this location.
So I will say we've gone around this a couple times in the last 3 weeks between the last Conservation Commission's meeting. My understanding is that this Conservation Commission wants a test pit at the location for each of the stormwater features where we expect to infiltrate. Easthampton has notoriously had a lot of trouble with infiltration. We've had a lot of perched groundwater. We've had layers of clay hiding underneath layers of permeable soils. And this commission has now made it a practice to require an abundance of test pits so that we have enough information to know that when we build an infiltration feature, it will actually infiltrate. So we're not doing change order or amended order after amended order after amended order, moving our infiltration features around, redesigning them, these projects dragging on for years. So we have this one test pit from where I'm sitting that's close enough to where the dry well is. However, it doesn't give us enough separation in order for us to feel confident that it will actually succeed at infiltrating the 2-year storm that it claims to infiltrate, particularly because, obviously soils tell a longer story, but this was taken in the middle of this prolonged drought. It was a test pit in a prolonged drought that we've been in. And we need test pit information from wherever you're going to put the dry wells. So if you're going to move this dry well further up gradient because it's too close, because it doesn't have enough separation, from where I'm sitting, from my past experience with the commission, we would be looking for a test pit at that new location, as well as a test pit close to the location of the other dry well, as well as a test pit close to the location of the maintenance building's dry well.
And whatever additional dry well you might propose, if that's the route you want to go with the solar canopy.
This one right here.
And I do understand your situation with the credits, but I feel like we were pretty clear about needing this information 3 weeks ago, and
Well,
we've not really gotten any closer.
Well, no, I mean, I just did, in all due respect, I mean, I had some correspondence from the commission. And the last one was again specific to, I mean, I can verbatim say what the request was. It was just aggregate whichever this commission requires the location of the test pit as drawn on the plan set. And
Yeah,
so,
I have in my notes from the last meeting that we asked for test pits to demonstrate the soil conditions at the places where you're looking to infiltrate.
I know, I understand. And so we provided some information and then and so then we showed, where it was, at least the information that we had provided, some explanation of what was done here, that, we had limited information, that, there are various reasons for that, as I noted earlier. But given, at least what we've observed and groundwater conditions, the location of the wetland in that location, and this being, 8 feet up gradient, we needed to make some assumptions going into the permit application. And so when I got this response back asking for the specific, test pit location as drawn on the plan set, I interpreted that quite honestly, just to be, you missed whatever was provided earlier, not, we need test pits in every dry well location. That wasn't the request that I had heard, or at least that had been conveyed. There was discussion about test pit information. I certainly understand that, I respect that, and tried to provide everything that we had. And this was the response we got back. And so I was trying to respond directly to the request, not to be dishonest, not trying to be, difficult or anything else. I was just trying to be specific to whatever we were asked and tried to provide that. So we would be more than happy to go out and dig test pits in all of those locations.
The last email I sent to you, Jeff, was on Wednesday, June 3rd, and I said, I will share with the commission. This was your correspondence with Marston said, the commission remains concerned about the lack of sufficient test pit information to reliably understand seasonal high groundwater for the functionality of the 3 undersized dry wells. Dated Wednesday, June 3rd.
But that's right. This was, that
was after we had corresponded several times about the commission's concern regarding the lack of information, the lack of soil information on this site.
And I'm not trying to be, honestly, I'm not trying to be difficult. I was just, and that email came out, after we had written all of this. So it wasn't, this has been an evolving discussion, obviously. And I was, we were trying to, address all the specific questions. And so I now hear very clear that you want test pit locations in every single dry well location. And so we can happily do that. I'm really nervous about, postponing this just because this will no longer be a project anymore is the reality of it. It does have, I don't think we anticipated this amount of complexity to, what we were doing when we, quite honestly, and when we started. It was 1,000 square feet buffer zone project on the heels of, the Main Street project, on the heels of, a number of others that didn't anticipate that this was gonna, become this big of a thing. We thought this was, given Lathrop's history, their motivations to really take care of that land and steward it, that this was a good thing all around, and trying to provide housing. And so that was, quite honestly, what we didn't think this was a major development project. So we can certainly provide, test bit information and do that work if that can be a condition. And if for whatever reason they don't show what we anticipate, we'll come back to you, or we can dismiss that part of the project. I don't know how else to do it, but that's just trying to find a way, a happy medium here.
Next week we get building and grounds or building planning committee,
Right.
and then that gets postponed again, and then we're at our deadline.
Yep.
They won't approve anything at this point.
So I'm having a hard time understanding 2-year storms and dry wells and why that's the design standard, particularly for the 2 residential units here, like how can we even be talking about that and not peak flow control for large storms or whatever?
Well, so one of the exhibits that we had put together in that presentation is we looked at, what it would take to design this cottage project. And again, these are 2 single-story, single family homes effectively.
Part of a facility, like a complex, part of like when you look at how this area of the complex is laid out, it looked like there was intended to have been a building here at one point in time.
Right.
It just wasn't constructed. And I don't know if it was in the original plan or not, but
Keep going, keep it the end.
But even though this is less than whatever the threshold is for our, stormwater management permit, it's like part of the larger common plan of development, even though it's occurring at a different time.
Absolutely. And so, and again, and our goal in understanding that we were trying to minimize the impacts to the existing system, that it was, trying to reduce the flows, the impervious areas, the bad water going to the current system. And so, with the solar project, it was at least clean water we're putting in there. This particular location, there's 5 parking spaces, surface parking spaces that drain to the existing system. All the rest is lawn or vegetation. We're creating 4 spaces, and then all the roof water was being infiltrated. And so that was, is again, in terms of the larger development, that was without going back and having to redesign, re-engineer, the stormwater system and bring that all up to current standards. The way we handle redevelopment projects typically is to try to, minimize those impacts and localize any of that stormwater management that we can to the best extent possible.
But this isn't redevelopment. This
No.
is new development that was not included in the original master plan. So this needs to meet current stormwater management standards.
So this, would put the belt and suspenders on. This is a subsurface stormwater system, cold tech chambers with a treatment chamber, overflows, pipe connections to all the roof gutters. It still overflows in the 50. That's just the way stormwater systems are designed. They're designed to attenuate peak flows. And so this is a whole system that is upwards of 100, I don't know, what did I say, 75 grand or so?
55 to 75. This is his,
$1,000 for a French drains to capture all of the parking lot water. This is what it would take for a duplex. If you wanted to ensure 100% compliance with, all of those things for buffer zone project. So, which isn't, we would never done. We've never done that. Just as a perspective. That's not something that we would, that would be ever feasible. So it's just not something that ever gets done. It's to the, practical, sense that's, given the scale of the project.
But if you were building this and taking into consideration that it is part of the larger project, you would absolutely do that because that would be 100% required. And what we're saying is that our stormwater ordinance doesn't allow you to not consider it part of the larger common project.
Again, but we're not creating a new point source discharge. We're not doing anything that introduces the stormwater regulations.
I want to hear what Mark has to say because to me, an overflowing dry well at a 2-year storm is a point source discharge. It's
12 feet from a wetland line.
Well, we talked about it. You want to fill in?
we talked about that there are some measures you could take to mitigate
Right.
the flowing, something like a level spreader that would spread it.
There's no standards in the stormwater management handbook about
Dry wells.
about a dry well. There's no standards. There's no design specifications.
They have very little information in the BMP section.
It's like if you were doing a 20-unit brand new development, why not just put 2-year dry wells 12 feet away from the wetlands everywhere, and get away from the stormwater
Well,
management?
theoretically, somebody could. I mean, it's fully subject to the stormwater standards, something like that.
And what Mark said when we talked on the phone too is that if a point source discharge eventually does result from this, right?
Then you got a violation.
Then we have a violation and then it's enforceable under the State Wetlands Protection Act.
That's
So
why-
if a point source discharge resulted from a dry well overflowing 12 feet from a wetland, resulting in a point source discharge into the wetland, then there would be a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act.
But you have to wait for it to happen. That's the problem.
If they're not threading a pipe into the wetland.
Again, we don't regulate sheet flow, stormwater. You're only looking at post and pre. So you gotta wait, like David said. So if you think it's gonna happen, you put something like a level spreader out there. And additional vegetation if it's possible. But you can plant native species of trees and shrubs in a wetland.
And this site needs it because the adjacent wetland has been mowed.
It's a no-no.
Lathrop already knows.
Pretty thick now though, but because we heard you. But I didn't know anything about that either, so.
I mean, I wonder if some of the tension around this is that as a commission, we are experiencing more and more flooding all around. Storms are no longer, we can't use 2-year measures. We have to use much different measures because the 2-year measure isn't even active. Like it, I guess I just feel like as a committee, we are moving more toward needing to have more protection. And you're sort of operating under like, well, this is what we've been doing for 20 years. Why can't we just sort of, I don't know. That's
Thing is,
part of
the new
it.
stormwater standards have not come into play yet, the new requirements. You're working off the same stormwater standards that were created in 2008.
Yeah,
I mean, saying, again, TP 40 is lower volume than the new NOAA 14. NOAA 14 does not take effect until they change the regulations.
And just to add, no, just again, trying to keep it in context, of yes, these are, fairly modest projects on a, property that's 180 odd acres in size. So, when you try to look at, when you do those comparisons of additional impervious cover or as a percentage of the overall property, really is a very minor percentage. And I completely hear you. That's why we're trying to conceive of these as in locations that will have, the least amount of grading required, the least amount of vegetation removal required, the least amount of stormwater impacts, all of those. And again, we've looked at this site, every which way from Sunday and various architects, various developers, different POs, and all of those were far worse.
Give a deal with the stormwater ordinance, Sandy.
Yep.
So the ordinance is triggered by disturbance and not point source discharges.
Right.
There's a category of smaller project in the stormwater ordinance, which is under 10,000 square feet, which is to be administered by the building official, not necessarily Conservation Commission. This is an extremely unusual case here that we're looking at with this reviewing something that is in this size of project category. So what's the what are the standards in there for that?
Yep, so it's essentially just this information. Do you want me to read it aloud?
Can we see it?
I mean, it essentially. It doesn't, it's not much.
Mhm.
There's not much in here.
Mhm.
It's essentially like you just have to describe what you're building and add in erosion and sediment control.
So that's not that's what you have to present, not the standards.
The ordinance kind of.
Yeah, the ordinance is not, it's under reconsideration right now. But I mean, this is it right here, right? This is the standard. The stormwater management plan shall demonstrate every effort is being made to minimize impervious area, disconnect impervious area runoff from the municipal storm drain system, wetlands, waterways, and adjacent offsite impervious areas, or otherwise treat, infiltrate, or retain stormwater runoff by implementing the stormwater measures of or low impact development designed in accordance with this ordinance and the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. That's essentially our performance standards.
For small, like less than 10,000 square foot projects. How much,
Yeah.
what's our square foot disturbance? What's our square footage of disturbance?
I'm not sure we have received that number. Have we received that number yet?
Yeah.
It's over 10,000 square feet, but under an acre. However, as we know, we have been told that there is potentially future projects coming in front of Lathrop, coming in front of us from Lathrop, which will at that point mean that we are working with a common plan of development, which will include the work that is proposed here. Right.
Understood. And just for the sake of discussion, if there is future buildings conceived of in other locations, again, just as we talked about, again, this is all just part of the discussion, is that those, we would approach those projects in those locations very similar to what we would be doing here. Trying to infiltrate that roof water, trying to minimize impacts to it, because again, they're separate systems. There's 8 different systems out there. So that's exactly how we would manage it though.
But that would roll you into the more specific requirements and you would not be able to manage it that way. And because this would then be viewed as part of that, I think you would have to retroactively make this come into compliance.
Yeah. I think as soon as you hit an acre as part of any future plan of development, an acre of disturbance, which does mean that we would need a square footage number of disturbance.
Sure.
Currently.
We can certainly provide that.
Going down into all of it, right? Tree removal, everything that's happening, all of those pieces. Everything within the limit of work, so that we have that number.
Keep a record of it. That's fine. Certainly provide that.
And so if that, you would rather take this route with the stormwater now, knowing that you might have to then upgrade it to meet the standards of the stormwater ordinance later.
Yes. Yeah, I think and again, just understanding what those potential impacts could be, that I'm not overly concerned that it's gonna open up a little bit of a box in terms of what, that stormwater system. But again, because it's such a disconnected system, it's a complex system going to, 14 different drainage areas or more. So I'm not concerned that bringing, one of these drainage areas and dealing with the full standards in those locations isn't going to be unattainable.
And this location.
Yeah.
So like your 51 to 70,000, you would have to rip up whatever's under that and put it in.
Good figure. Yes, we have space there to do what we needed to.
If the commission would then, at that point, it will be in the inner buffer zone. It'll be regulated. That work. It gets messy.
Yeah.
So I think in order to meet this performance standard of that every effort is being made to minimize impervious area, disconnect impervious area runoff from the municipal storm drain system. That's not relevant here. Wetlands, is our key piece here, or otherwise treat, infiltrate, or retain stormwater runoff by implementing stormwater management measures or low impact development designed in accordance. We need to know that your infiltration systems proposed are actually going to function.
Mhm.
So we need a test pit location. We need a test pit at each dry well location.
And because there's no storm specified here, we need to decide what we think qualifies as every effort possible. Does the 2-year storm from old data count as every effort possible? I would say probably not in my mind, but I would leave that up to the rest of the commission.
So the 2-year storm that we looked at was for current rainfall. That wasn't the dry well capacity, and what those were designed to manage was current rainfall. It wasn't
From which data?
original. From current, it was probably, I don't know if it was the 14 or not. I'd have to confirm that. Certainly.
So
I think
would
it
the
was.
commission be satisfied with 2-year NOAA 14 data? With 2 feet of separation from the bottom of the dry well
It was.
at the location of the test pits and proposed dry wells? Do we need 10-year?
Are we gonna hold other people to
I don't know.
that?
It's either we're doing the stormwater management standards or we're doing nothing, you know? It's like, it's almost like, fine, whatever, you know? If we're saying we don't need to meet stormwater management standards because there's no point to source discharge, then like,
There's no point source discharge until there's a point source discharge and you have an enforcement order.
so, yeah, well, okay, then I guess we're coming back to this, right?
Right, so
Yes,
what
yes.
we're deciding what every effort being made to reduce, to disconnect impervious area runoff from wetlands.
Mhm.
That's what we're deciding, is what equals every effort being made to disconnect impervious area runoff from wetlands.
I'm trying to learn as much as I can as I go along. This is all above me. That's why I hired him. Any way of separating this out in the meantime, so I can get the facilities and solar going? The two townhomes aren't even approved yet. And in terms of projects, we got 30 years worth of projects I'm going through, trying to figure out what I can do and not do to add housing in the area and pay taxes on the area. So, but I have no immediate plans to even build these 2 townhomes. I wish to. The only immediate plans I have are the facilities building and the solar right now on both, you know, on the canopy and the facilities building.
You are
if there's
more
a way
than
to-
welcome to pull the townhomes out of the NOI.
What does that do today, though? Like, is that bring me somewhere further today on the 15th? I can get approval from town planning to move forward with the solar by July 4th.
I think we could talk about whether we would be willing to condition the solar infiltration on hinging on getting the soils data and having the appropriate clearance to groundwater. I don't know how folks would, I don't think we've ever done that before.
And I'm wondering if that can be done in a week before the 15th, or would that be contingent as well on the 15th? Everything would be the other.
So what does the commission think about that? So we're imagining that the applicant decides to pull the duplex and we're just doing one part of the project, which is the moving of the maintenance building, the construction of the solar canopy, and the trash enclosure.
And does that mean that with the duplex, I can keep that running as long as we need to meet your satisfaction? No.
No, it would be out of the NOI and you'd have to reapply for it later.
And if we reapply for it later, how's my timing in terms of losing the opportunity to ever build there?
You can apply for relief under the wetlands ordinance, but the wetlands ordinance will be in effect.
It is in effect.
It is in effect.
Okay, so it's already passed.
Yes.
What's the normal clearance? You said if it was 2 foot, but what would we most like?
Our ordinance requires 3 feet. Or if you're building infiltration basin under our stormwater ordinance, we require 3 feet of separation. Again, this is a situation, so 2 feet are in the stormwater handbook for infiltration basins, but they don't specify that in dry wells because dry wells have no specs in the Massachusetts stormwater handbook.
These would be dry well.
These are dry wells.
Dry well.
However, I think common sense tells us all that we don't want the bottom of our dry well to be sitting in groundwater because it won't function as a dry well, right?
So as one alternative to offer, I mean, one thing we could also do is just put a stone drip strip around. These are all slab on grade buildings. Is we could just put a stone, you know, it's the other way we've handled it rather than dry wells. It's just do a 2-foot wide stone strip around the entire building and this just discharge the gutters into that. You know, it would be it's effectively, it's a dry well around the perimeter of the building. I would say much higher in elevation. So that would be a 2 by 2 stone trench that would infiltrate as an alternative.
Much bigger volume that it contains and a much bigger infiltration surface area.
Yeah.
More likely to get screwed up through, you know, with junk over time, you know, sediment, stuff like that.
Harder to maintain.
Harder to maintain.
I suppose where the gutters and downspouts empty. So, you know, splash box or something to direct it, but it's, I mean, there's a little bit more management, but certainly another way to deal with it.
Let's go back to the question of whether we would be willing to entertain conditions for the missing soils information. Because if that's a no, then we're coming back for another meeting anyways. And I definitely don't think we've ever done that. I'm not sure if it's a precedent we would want to set.
Yeah, I don't think we've done that before.
Some commissions do that though.
I mean, one note I will say that I do think if just the solar canopy and the removal of the maintenance building had come in front of the commission before the wetlands ordinance had been passed, just on its own, it would have been reviewed as an RDA. Based on the extent of buffer zone impact. So if that helps frame our thinking, I think that's a relevant piece of information to hold.
And is that because, can I just ask, is that because of just proximity to wetlands or overall work, or what would be the?
It's farther from the resource area.
We do, sorry,
Go ahead.
we do now have tree removal in the resource area there.
That's true.
So that would have tripped it out.
That would have, good point. Yeah. Kind of right on the line, the tree removal.
Could we, in making it a condition, could we authorize Ava to say if the test pit information comes back and gives us what we need, we authorize you to authorize the owner.
So do we just make the test pits part of the order of conditions?
I mean, that's what making them a condition is.
Yeah.
But if we don't want to set that as a precedent, could we just say if we get that information in the next week that it could permit it?
No, because you have to take a vote to close the public hearing.
I guess I'm saying we would vote now contingent upon that test pit information, but I guess that's the same thing as a condition.
That's a condition.
We should mark-
How quickly you,
Go ahead.
so, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, that's an option.
Mark, you said other committees have done that in other
I mean, the
communities.
only thing you want to be careful of is, once you, let's say you close the public hearing, but you don't issue the order for a week. In the meantime, the information comes in. You can't use that. The hearing's closed. You can ask for it It's a special condition as part of the order of conditions.
Right. That's what we would do. We would ask for it as a special condition of the order of conditions and phrase it as though if, and we need to be really clear moving forward what we want that special condition to say, if what the test pit information needs to show.
And if the condition couldn't be met, then basically the NOI would just be defunct.
Right.
The order would be defunct rather.
And we just need to understand whether it would be for the dry well or the, perimeter drainage or perimeter, stone. So if it is the latter, at least I would feel like there's a little bit more, the margin of error is a little bit greater with the, around the building because it's much shallower.
Around the maintenance garage
Yes.
to do it.
Around either of them. I mean, the groundwater is going to be, that's going to be the, highest point. We can't, we don't need to pipe it into a thing. We can just keep it on the surface if we just do downspouts. So we could, at least ensure that we would have the maximum amount of separation from groundwater in those locations, I guess is where I was going.
We're talking about different design alternatives now in addition to just,
Yeah.
It was just, as an offering, again.
But we don't, okay, so information, we don't know where these dry wells are going to be placed.
I mean, I would,
We have one proposed here, and it seems as though a second one is needed for the solar canopy.
Yeah, I don't think we have, there's more to be determined still than just confirming a test fit. I don't feel like we can condition it this way. Well, you're changing, right now you've got things draining to existing stormwater system. We're gonna change that and have it drain to another dry well. We don't know where that's gonna be. I'm assuming you're gonna have to change some stuff in the pitch of something to make that work. So we just don't even know how you're gonna pull this off yet or where it's gonna put the water.
I'm not trying to complicate things. If it's test pits in those dry well locations, that's what it can be. I was simply trying to offer something that was more amenable, that was all.
But we don't have all the test pit locations, right?
No, that's what we were just talking
I
about.
mean, we don't have all the dry well locations.
I mean, the only one that I offered up previously was the one for the solar. So we can, I think that was just conceived of tonight. So again, I would be happy we could do that as a condition that will show the dry well and the test pit for that accompanying test pit. And there wasn't something that I'm prepared to answer. With information on. It was something that I just thought of this evening as a way to.
Right. No, understood. But my point is, it's not on the plans since it was just conceived. So in addition to conditioning the test pit information, we also don't know where that dry well is even going to be. We don't have plans that are going to be accurate to what we would issue an order for. There's a lot of missing pieces now.
We don't need to do the dry well for the solar. That's fine too. If it complicates things. Again, I'm not trying to, it was.
But then we're back to the stormwater system questions.
Yep. Which, yeah, I thought we had a fairly lengthy discussion about, but I'm still trying to. We're struggling trying to compare a very complicated system designed years ago in a small amount of additional area going to that and trying to analyze how that all functions in current day, real world time is very challenging. It's for a project of this magnitude. It's yeah.
We don't have the authority to just throw the standards out.
There's no Mark here.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, he showed up tonight.
We're not creating.
I also just want to take a second to acknowledge that we are sympathetic of your timeline and we extend our sympathies around your timeline. I want to note that Jeff and I started corresponding about this project in early March. I have the email chain. In early March, on March 12th, I said that if the solar canopy was just over existing impervious area, the commission would review it as an RDA, independent of the rest of the site. Otherwise, I said all other project components should be included in one application. Please note changes to drainage caused by the proposed canopy must be included in the stormwater model you build for the NOI/stormwater permit. And we will review the larger permit under the Easthampton stormwater ordinance. So we started talking about project segmentation, about this being a larger common project in early March. And it is now mid-June. This application was received in May.
And I just want to stress that this is the project at hand. The reason the cottages were included is because we're trying to find a small location on the site that we could reserve for the potential for a duplex. And with the ordinance now, it makes that much more challenging. This is not a big project. This is 7 units over 180 acres. And so
on a site that's surrounded by wetlands.
We acknowledge that, the stormwater ordinance and the 1 acre of disturbance is absolutely in play. And, have been trying to really stress the microcosm of these particular locations on the overall development. This has no bearing on 80% of the stormwater system. It's only this little small drainage area. And so what we try to do with this, as we would with any project, is try to employ best management practices, try to do the best that we can for what we are given. And in this case, it was, put as much development, either in this case over existing impervious area, and or take, that stormwater offline and infiltrate it. And just because it made sense in this case to square out that parking lot below the solar canopy, that water was going to go there anyway, it made sense to add 3 spaces. So that's our increase. And with the cottages, again, it's purely trying to keep a foot in the door that may not ever happen, as may not any of that other stuff that we talked about early in the year, that may not ever happen. It was trying to understand the overall impacts. It's a larger conversation with the finance committee, with a whole bunch of boards and committees. There's a number of projects that they're talking about. This was one of them, and trying to understand the full scope of the impacts and what it was going to trigger and not trigger, MEPA or not, all of that stuff was on the table. And so that was what prompted the discussion is, what is required, and just acknowledging that we don't, we're sensitive to the fact that that location where the cottages are proposed would, likely be unfeasible under the current ordinance. But there's certainly other housing developments and housing or developed portions of this site that, are just as close to wetlands. And, again, it's trying to find these little pockets and really do something sensible and reasonable.
And we will continue to work with you, Jeff, for as long as it takes to get the information that we need to feel comfortable approving the permit. Ava's point is merely that she gave you this information in March. And so while we're sympathetic, we can't do anything.
But but the stormwater standards don't necessarily apply in this instance. We're not creating a point source. We are doing best management practices. We are using low impact development standards. We are doing all of the things that it says you're supposed to do. And I don't know what else. We can't design a system for 1,000 square feet that, holds 100-year storm and deals with attenuation and water quality and all of that. You can't do that. That's not the way.
But the water that's being sourced into the existing stormwater system does result in a point source discharge to wetlands, right? We saw that in your analysis,
right?
Which is why it's subject to current Massachusetts state stormwater standards, because you're bringing new impervious area online to an existing system that discharges to wetlands.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Just trying to understand. I forgot Jeff's point. So if all they're doing is adding final point source is the discharge from the basin.
Right.
It's not any new pipe coming in. So what commissions should do whenever they have a basin, a new basin, is to say no new water can be added without the filing of a notice of intent. Most commissions don't even think about there will be additional development. So what you're looking at in this case, if there's no new point source, meaning no new basin, and the sheet flow again, Dan, is not a point source, you're looking at the effect of the additional water on the wetlands now. So technically, it doesn't have to be treated because it's not a new point source, 10.056B. So is the additional water going to impact the wetlands? Have a impairment or change in the functions and values of the wetland system as it currently exists? So if they went to all sheet flow, which they could propose, would that additional runoff, when it got to the wetland, would it impair the functions and values of that wetland? Meaning, if you change a scrub shrub to a forested wetland, that's an impairment of the existing wetland system. Same thing, if you have, a forested wetland, and you add so much water that the trees can't survive and it goes to a scrub shrub, that's an impairment, that's an alter. So is that going to happen here? So yes, stormwater standards apply because of the type of project, but you can't apply all the stormwater standards without a point source. So you can still apply standard 1, standard 8, standard 9, standard 10. 8 is, of course, the construction period BMPs, 9 is long-term, 10 is the illicit discharge. But everything else in there, it's not really subject to it. It's subject to the standards, but not all of them.
So at this location here, it's the maintenance building whose roof runoff is going to the dry well, right?
Correct.
Let's just get rid of that. Let's just do no gutters, no downspouts,
Sheet flow it.
just sheet flow it. The new impervious under the canopy that goes to the existing stormwater system. For me, I'm satisfied that that's gonna perform like fine enough, And I forget, where does the dumpster pad drainage go as that goes into
There's the existing system. Yeah, that's just replacing what was there.
so that gets some treatment and flow control as Jeff's demonstrated. Then we don't do the dry well. We don't have to get test pit information.
And we don't build the duplex.
we don't build the duplex.
How do the other commissioners feel about that? So how far away is our maintenance garage to our wetland? What's that distance there, Jeff?
What's the scale?
75 feet. 50 feet, I would say 50 feet based on where the 100-foot buffer is, which is just out at the,
Oh, here.
yeah.
Mhm.
So just sort of, maybe it's just inside the 50, 45.
Building inspector tries to make you put gutters on the building, just tell them Conservation Commission says you can't do it.
What if we require an additional vegetative buffer planting?
I was gonna say, we still have the problem of the trees coming down.
I know, that's.
And so I think if we coupled this with some additional plantings in the buffer, that would be okay.
And when the trees come down, will the stumps be pulled?
No,
Okay.
So we could get some new trees in here over by the maintenance garage, and we need this area that's currently regrowing as a wet meadow. We could do plantings in that resource area if the commission wants to.
that's the area that's been mowed.
Mhm. This wetland right here has been mowed until April of this year when we had our site visit.
Yes, to me, that's a separate thing. I'm more concerned about the the trees helping the wetland that's gonna be affected by this.
The localized wetland. Okay.
Hoping it functions better and please.
So I do think we could require a vegetation restoration plan, including probably 1-to-1 or more for each tree coming down, planted in that wetland and in the adjacent buffer area, which could serve the dual purpose of restoring eventual mature overstory to the resource area, as well as adding an additional buffer area, because I believe some of this on the back here is currently mowed, right? Some of the back where the maintenance garage is.
Yes.
I'm not sure that it's actually being mowed. I think it's just wear and tear, people walking through there, because it's still high enough that they're just walking behind the chillers but I don't.
There's a little picnic table out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're mowing, but.
But knowing that our water is going to be sheet flowing down these contour lines from the maintenance garage, that we could condition essentially a restoration plan, a revegetation plan for that area to act as our essentially a vegetative filter strip.
Yeah, that'll be way better.
Yeah.
Stormwater wise than the
Right.
well.
I think that's a path.
Then waiting for our dry well to be a point source discharge.
I'm actually more concerned about the loss of the trees taking up water than the additional flow. Or the combination of the two.
I want to consider the use of signage, like conservation area, no mowing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
So, Julie, do you want to summarize where we're at?
Right. Give me a minute so I can jot down the notes here.
And this is, of course, if the applicant would like to proceed with this, because this is a substantial change to the project as originally proposed.
And you're specifically talking about dropping the
I just want
cottages.
to make sure we clarify. Just cottages, and we apply for cottages in the future, should we decide to go there? Yes, so the answer is yes.
All right, I think I missed something. I've got no gutters on the maintenance building, so we're losing the dry well. We're gonna let that convert or let that just be sheet flow. Vegetating the buffer will require a
Planting plan.
planting plan with shrubs and other vegetation there and trees. Then we'll specify that relative to some numbers of what we're looking to see to replace the trees that are coming down. Duplex comes out of the NOI, so we don't have to deal with that. No mowing signage to make it clear that this area is not to be further disturbed. The dry wells are coming out. I guess it's just the one that's shown, but that goes away.
Mhm.
Did I miss something?
Thanks.
So we're just to clarify, we are allowing the tie-in to the existing stormwater system.
Yes.
Okay. So no mowing signage, there's gonna be no gutters on the maintenance building, we're gonna revegetate the buffer. I'll get out there this week to figure out what square footage we're looking for that buffer area that we're looking to be revegetated, and then Jeff, probably you and me should meet out there so we can map out what that looks like. So I can understand like where the maintenance guys have to get behind and stuff like that, just so I understand the usage of it. And then we want 1-to-1 mitigation plantings for the trees removed, all in this system. So some of those will be in the buffer, but probably not all of them, because I don't think this buffer area is going to be that large. And we're talking, it's over 20 trees, quite a few trees. Yeah, but somewhere in this existing wetland system, those trees will be replaced.
And then within this vegetated buffer, I'd like to see some understory plants as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So then we would have these all as pre-construction conditions. So we would have, we would have a tree planting plan overall as a pre-construction condition. So where you're gonna plant them, what you're gonna plant, DBH, et cetera. And then we would have the buffer zone, like your plan for the buffer zone restoration area for our vegetative filter strip. I think we'll call it that because I don't want to get confused for future,
Okay.
whenever we talk about restoration.
Yeah.
This is in terms of the
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
So our vegetative filter strip we will want to plan what your plant list is for the vegetative filter strip. Some of those one-to-one planting trees could go in there. I think those are the two main pieces of information we need.
And the duplex is no longer part
Okay,
of this.
that was on the list.
Okay, yes, just making sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And we would need an updated plan.
Yeah,
that
an
shows
updated.
the changes.
Can I ask a question as a member?
You may, please introduce yourself.
My name's Matt Person. I've learned a lot with the. Curious why you would select to take out the dry wells if the goal is to mitigate stormwater runoff.
So with doing the gutters or taking the gutters off and allowing it to just spread out across the larger area, we're dispersing the water more and doing the vegetative filter strip through here. We're kind of letting that be the attenuation rather than infiltration. Something, and you add anything to that?
If the dry well was appropriately sized for the system, like if it could handle a substantial enough storm, that would be perhaps the better option here. If we had confident soils data that all of the stormwater produced in a typical Western Massachusetts storm would be able to be managed.
And we're dealing with roof runoff, so we're not concerned about pollutants that would be coming off of pavement, for instance, and needing to infiltrate and have that other layer of treatment from infiltration. So that kind of contributes to it as well.
Thank you.
So I think maybe we want consent from the applicant that we want to proceed with this before we vote on this.
It's that.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion that includes what parts of the project we're including and what parts of the project we're not including? And you guys will see the order of conditions at the next meeting. We'll review them entirely, but I will be able to communicate to the planning board that we will have issued an order of conditions for this section. However, because there are so many moving pieces, I want the commission to be able to review the order with me at the next meeting, the actual special conditions of it, and then it will be issued on the 23rd. You'll have your order. They're going to vote on it tonight. You'll have your order in hand on the 23rd.
All the conditions that we discussed in one shot, or?
Yeah, I think I want you to enumerate which parts of the application we're including and what we're not including. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
So we want to be clear in the motion that we're pulling out the flexi that's been struck from them.
I move that we authorize the solar roof and the.
Have to be issue an order of conditions.
It should.
Yeah, should be
as
make a
the-
motion to
that.
issue an order of conditions.
No. Yeah, first have to close the public hearing.
Oh, we never do that.
No, we never.
Yeah.
Great, let's do that.
All right.
Thank you.
May we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Public hearings we have.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
There's specific deadlines for.
Yes.
each.
Right.
There's 3 dates in the order.
Yes,
Date receipt, date close public hearing, date order conditions issued.
yes.
So there's deadlines.
Yes, I have 3 weeks now that they have motioned, before they even vote on the order of conditions, now that they have motioned to close the public hearing, I have 3 weeks from that date to issue your order of conditions.
How many times have you watched us not do that, Mark?
I don't see anything.
So yes, I'm moving that I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, approve the order, issue. What are we issuing? Oh, okay, we issue the order of conditions for this NOI minus, we're removing the cottage. We're including the solar, correct, the solar roof. And we're including the maintenance building and the dumpster pad. And the maintenance building, well, we're removing the dry wells. We're removing the gutters from the maintenance building. The order of conditions will include special condition for this vegetative buffer strip with 1-to-1 tree replacement and some understory.
Nice.
That
was really good.
That was good.
Second.
In favor? Aye. So moved.
All right. Okay, thank you. Jeff, I'll email you tomorrow morning to find a time to meet on the site
Okay.
to figure out our square footage of our vegetative filter strip area.
On Thursday, Friday, that'll be around.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Next item is a request for determination of applicability for detached garage construction at 12 Plumbrook Drive, map 146, lot 75. Filed by Todd Alexander on behalf of Stephen Gross.
And I know Todd is online. I'm hoping he's still with us. And owners are here in the back. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you for your patience through that hearing. Todd, go ahead and introduce our project.
All right, so we're proposing to build a detached garage at Plumbrook Drive. The dimensions are proposed 24 by 36, and the garage is parallel with Plumbrook. Currently the area is lawn, and it's proposed to be lawn area after the completion of the project. There is a stockpiled topsoil pile that was part of the original house construction project that we're going to relocate as part of that garage construction project, and then revegetate those areas with grass.
So, yeah, I see Julie's in the minor activities section. So we did go ahead and take a look on this site today. But that was my question as well, as whether or not the commission believes this is a activity accessory to the conversion of lawn to use as accessory to residential structures such as decks, sheds, patios, pools, and placement of basement bulkheads. We are more than 50 feet from the mean annual high water line of bank and from bordering vegetated wetland. The wetland, we have a little bit of a wetland fringe here. You can see on my plot, on the plot plan. Let me go back to that. That comes out ever so slightly from the edge of the brook. We're about 58 feet from the edge of our wetland fringe. Jay and Hal were out there with me today. We can take a look at the images real quick. So here is Plumbrook. Plumbrook has a drainage area of 0.16 square miles. It is a intermittent stream by the stream stats definition.
Well, what's it mapped on the USGS?
It's not mapped on the USGS.
Okay.
It does appear that it runs a lot of the year, but it is an intermittent stream. So it does not have a riverfront area. Here's our stream. And you can see, it's a little bit hard to tell in this image, but there's some wetland vegetation down here. We have our bordering vegetated wetland fringe, which is our area that's closest to the location of limit of work. Down at the stream. Okay, so here I'm standing with my back to the stream facing the stockpile, and I'm looking at the left. This is 12 Plumbrook Drive right in front of me, and I'm looking at the left Brookside corner of the of where the garage is gonna be. It's placed in this stockpile. And here I'm looking, now my back is kind of to the stockpile, and I'm looking at the other two sides of Plum Brook, of the garage, proposed garage. This is another angle. Again, I'm kind of at like diagonal to this brook here. You can see this is 12 Plum Brook. Here I'm like standing in the garage. Where the garage would be. That's just another angle.
When's the house built?
We moved in 1998. I'm the carpenter and the owner.
So did that go through the Conservation Commission in 1998?
The construction of the house.
No idea.
We did
We
a
were-
building permit and
We applied for a building permit and got it, and,
built it.
we told them where the house was gonna be, and they said,
100 feet was, it had to be 100 feet, and it was.
So the house was outside of the buffer zone,
But not the yard.
but not the yard.
Well, the yard is part of it.
we own
We
to
own
the other side of that brook.
Understood, right.
I think Mark is trying to establish whether the yard was legally established.
What was the yard? But when you guys moved in? Was it vegetated or was it?
It was a field.
It was a field.
It was a field.
I don't know.
It was a field of some sort.
Given what the rest of the area looks like in that area.
Mhm.
Probably.
Now you can look at the 1996 and 1997 black and whites.
Mhm.
But if I can go to the exempt activity a minute.
Yep.
A garage is often an accessory structure. If you look at the language, deck, shed, patios, or pools, those are pretty common. Why didn't they add garage?
Yes, right. I noted that as well. It's not one of the enumerated exemptions.
Right.
Which makes me think that perhaps they considered them to be larger and more impactful on potentially larger and more impactful on resource areas than the other categories here.
More impactful than
The pool is the one that gives me pause there. I would say a pool is likely to be the same size, fully impervious. It doesn't strike me as really
Yeah, it
Terribly
doesn't
different.
specify what type or size pool. That's the problem.
right. Yeah.
So,
A big pool.
right.
I know that in zoning parlance, a garage counts as an accessory structure to a residential building and would be permitted by right. Do you have precedent to share with us on garages relative to this exemption?
No.
Okay.
I can see both arguments.
Yeah.
So this could be either if the commission feels as though it will not impact the brook and its adjacent wetland fringe, this could either be a negative determination type 3 with conditions saying that it will not impact the resource area. It's a buffer zone only project. It will not impact the resource area. Or it could be a negative determination type 5 with exemption 10.02. We can get the correct number 2B. 2.
How much, good night. How much space will be left behind the garage up to the
Pull back up the plot plan.
of lawn in particular? Sorry.
So this is the woods edge. So it's hard to tell. Todd, do you want to take this one? Do you have an estimate there on how far from the garage edge to the woods edge?
Sure. Did we measure this morning? Was it 55 or 50? What was the dimension from the woods edge to that closest garage corner?
We measured from the top of the slope, which
Top of the
was our
slope.
very conservative estimate for wetland
Right.
edge.
So maybe there's going to be 25 to 30 feet of lawn still behind the garage, would be my estimate.
I'll say 30 feet.
There's a considerable amount of lawn.
What would we think about, and would you be open to a condition of ceasing mowing of some distance from the tree line to allow that to revegetate?
You mean, don't mow from the tree line to the back of the garage?
Not necessarily the whole distance, but if we said like giving up 10 feet of lawn or something.
Sure. That's fine. But does that mean have to let more trees come in or what?
So you would let it vegetate, yeah, and grow, like extend the woods.
We don't really want them to be right on top of the building. You don't want them too close to the building.
They're all leaning out that direction now as it is.
Fine.
And they're tall trees.
Shrub layer, some kind. Good,
Yeah, we could just do shrubs.
Yeah.
rhododendrons, blueberry, something like that.
So then you would be planting though,
I'm not
instead
sure
of
letting it revegetate.
Or just allow it to revegetate.
I think your easiest course of action would be to allow it to revegetate, right? So you don't have to purchase plant material and plant it. Yeah. And the little trees that grow in will be little for a long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably won't be your problem.
And what would the proposed dimension of that unmaintained area be?
10 feet, we said.
Yeah.
10 feet.
So extend the woods line by 10 feet.
And then that kind of
Let that naturalize.
balances out the question of whether a garage is a more impactful accessory structure. We gain back some additional buffer too. How do folks feel about that?
I'm good with it. I think that's consistent with what we're trying to do.
I was curious about that pile that's being,
I think the pile will be addressed during this project.
yeah, they have to
Move part of it, well, they have to move part of it, not all of it. That's my loam pile from when the
to spread on the.
lot was stripped to put the foundation in. It's only been 13 years.
So
You
is that
said you're
it?
gonna spread it on to the whole backyard though,
In
correct?
front of the yard, yeah,
And front.
In front yard, okay.
yeah.
which pile are you?
Well, it's where it's all those.
It's under
Those
the.
shrubs and vegetation.
Okay.
It's in there somewhere.
That's my loam pile.
There's a better picture in one of the earlier photos that from the aerial photo that showed it more clearly.
That's not.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not one.
Oh, there we go.
there.
Oh, there could be pictures in there, yes.
Yeah.
You can kind of see what the pile looks like without the vegetation on it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was
Yeah,
so long.
it's-
Wow.
It's very
Smart.
long, yeah.
That's good to me.
So we'd be looking at the usual conditions of 48-hour construction notice.
if we're
Appropriate
going-
erosion control.
That's if we're going negative termination, type 3,
Three.
not 5 for the exemption.
Right. I do think it's
Right,
worth
right.
it conditioning some erosion controls in here because
Yeah, so
it
let's-
sounds like it's gonna be a multi-month project.
Let's do -3 so we can put those silt fence and straw wattles in.
And then have the condition for the allowing 10 feet to revegetate along the wood line. Right.
That's kind of like the neighbors they have a large shed next door and that's basically it goes up to the same type of thing. And they don't mow behind it either.
You could just not mow behind it all the way back.
We probably won't.
Yeah,
We would
all the
love-
better.
and we
Yeah,
would love
all the
that.
better.
As much vegetation buffer as we can give our streets.
Oh, we've actually got one. Great.
I'm going to issue a negative determination type 3 that the work in the buffer zone and will not alter the buffer zone subject to the following conditions that 48-hour notice be provided to Concom before construction that 10-foot vegetated unmaintained buffer is added or is allowed to grow in front of the wood line, and erosion control barrier such as a silt fence and straw wattles be used between the resource area and the limit of disturbance.
I'll second.
All those in favor? So moved.
Yeah.
Great. And so you'll want to have that silt fence towed in. That's, I guess, really for Todd. Todd, you'll want to have the
Yep.
silt fence towed in and properly staked before you give me my 48-hour construction notice, because that's what I'll be checking when I come out.
Okay. And do you want the straw wattles on the disturbed side of the silt fence or on the stream side of the silt fence?
On the disturbed side of the silt fence. So
Okay.
the straw wattles go like at the base, at the at the toe of the silt fence
Yep. Okay.
on the garage side.
Sure.
Those should also probably stay in place until you're done with that whole landscaping, removing that pile.
Sure.
And that's just to catch any, if it rains, when it rains,
Right.
and sediment, because the ground will be open and sediment moves and starts to move towards the stream, it'll get caught by that sediment and erosion barrier and
Sure.
held in place so it doesn't enter the stream. Say that again?
Yep.
Oh, yes, once it's revegetated, once it's revegetated and your garage is up and the area is revegetated, you can pull your silt fence and straw wattle out. Yep, basically, it's just like common sense, right? Once it's gonna rain again and it's not gonna wash dirt into the river,
Right.
you're good to take it out.
Okay.
You're doing this hand delivery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'd have to just get. Do you folks want this by mail or did you already check the box?
I did check
You already
the
checked the
box.
box, okay. So then you're gonna have to hang on for 1 second. Once the commission has a chance to sign it, I'm gonna scan it into my records and then I'll hand you the original copy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to bring up an unrelated issue with water somewhere else in town?
That would have had to come during public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
You could send something in by writing if you'd like to conservation@easthamptonma.gov, and then I can share it with the commission at the start of the next meeting.
Okay.
That's to make things go faster. You can believe it.
The commissioners need to stand up and stretch. This is a moment to do that. I'm gonna go scan that RDA in, so you have like 3 minutes. If anyone needs to go to the bathroom. Get
Are
some
you all set?
water.
Are you all set with me now or?
I am, Todd. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so
I will
much for
send
your
you a copy of the RDA in your email.
help. Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Be right back.
Between Drive,
Storage type of.
Oh,
storage,
got it.
right? It's
Yeah.
not a use everyday garage and it's not a shop.
Yeah.
It's a storage facility. But I thought at one time of we have a walkout basement there too, and I have a shop in the house. And I thought about putting a paved roadway down to that shop, but with the amount of cars that come in Third Avenue looking to cut through and down Plum Brook looking to cut through, if I paved it, I'd have cars going right through my yard all day long.
Oh, that's 6973.
Yeah, that makes,
We're gonna go through that tonight, are we?
All right.
That's a lot.
All those certificates.
I was gonna say, I have to admit, I'm your neighbor on First Ave and I'm guilty of being a pedestrian.
Oh, that's fine. With walking through is fine.
We try to only do it. Once.
Oh,
Go in the winter, you know, you can go in the winter.
Just, so
On Everett Street.
Florida Pond and some kind of,
Yeah, I heard that there's, they think dam, some beavers have built a dam.
Several years back.
so it's
Seriously,
city
you
street.
know, the leaves that were sticking up now, they're only this much. And it's like,
Oh, so there's Clark
There's
Street.
trees
Yes,
there.
we go.
Oh, it's right by us.
yeah, when
It's a light item.
It's office.
There was a problem with them several years back, and I guess
Is it?
they came back.
No, it's not 50 plus, but it's.
I'm gonna assume, because it didn't used to.
It's not cool.
I rarely see beavers on our street.
I've never been on the
Get
street.
to it often.
you may know what we have.
Clark Street.
Clark Street. Except
I could hear.
Oh, that was the other thing we were gonna
No, it's only just this little.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
What the difference?
You turn on the beach off of Clark and then it's like makes it do. Yeah, you.
I mean, I guess it's nice to flush people's basements, I'm not sure.
No, you can't touch it without, you can't breach, you can't trap the beavers without a permit from the Board of Health. You can't breach the dam unless you get an emergency permit from the Conservation Commission or you file an application like RDA or notice of intent.
When beavers would have, it was like one day it was, you could see a stream and the next day it was full of water.
Right.
Fill up that big from beavers?
Yeah, that's easy to build. Yeah.
Okay,
You-
So
I've
this is
never
for
seen
your
beavers
records.
active like statewide.
It has
as
the
this year.
conditions are on their signatures and the conditions are right hand side window. So that's what you're, that's what seals and like, you know, ours is sealed, like we know.
I'm leaving it up to him.
Yeah, okay, so that's. I will email you, just go get a digital version. Mark, I never get to do this. Thank you. Rats. Next order of business. Notice of intent for ecological restoration at 228 Northampton Street, map 114, lot 12, otherwise known as River Valley Market, for invasive management in resource areas and buffer zone. This is map DEP file number 1510339.
And thank you to Matt for waiting for 2 hours.
Welcome. Thank you for doing the work. I'm not sure how you'd like me to proceed. Do I?
If you want to give us just a quick overview of the project, I think we generally have an understanding and this is fairly simple, but if you want to just tell us what you're planning to do.
Sure. I'm actually confused. Am I can't remember. Am I the applicant or am I the representative?
It would be the representative.
I'm the representative. The applicant, River Valley Market, wants to steward their land. I think there was something in there, an original order of conditions about maintaining it as an open meadow and having best management practices for invasives. And they asked me to, I was managing some mugwort around their more manicured areas. And they asked me about the larger meadow a while ago. And so I looked at it and could see it was clearly getting invaded by the invasive plants that I have listed there. And then the proposal is just a proposal to address those shrubby, woody invasives mostly, some herbaceous, some Japanese knotweed is in there as well, and some mugwort. I think that's the extent of the herbaceous, but those woody invasives are a concern because they're blocking the view, they're becoming quite dense, and they're spreading fruit more, they're spreading themselves into what used to be mown annually or biannually. I remember 10, 15 years ago, it was just sort of mown and would occasionally get let go and sported a lot of nice wildflowers. I remember admiring them. But it was, yeah, I'm not sure who was paying attention to it then, but River Valley wants a smattering of native shrubs and not the invasives.
I noticed that you mentioned that the work will generally be done by hand with backpack sprayers, but there was a note in there about the potential for equipment with low ground pressure tires. Can you speak to what you're anticipating there and what that would look like?
Well, it's a real labor saver to be able to have a tractor that's appropriately sized and appropriate for driving in soft soils. Soil disturbance is something I'm personally sort of attuned to, and it's also obviously a high visibility location, restoration project. So a machine with high flotation tires would be ideal. I don't own one. I'd like to someday, but they're expensive, and I've rented them. I'm not sure the diameter of the shrubs and the density of the wood is probably beyond what I could rent a machine like that to do. I mean, it's just one of the things my business doesn't own is a Ventrac mower, but I've used them on some other sites for some sort of smaller overgrown stuff. I'd like to use one on this site, but I doubt that's going to happen this year for my business. I have a walk behind machine. That's what my business owns that I use often. Flail mower to sort of grind up invasive plants either before or after spraying them with herbicide. Yeah, the machine has a lot of tire tread per weight, and it also pivots in the center, so it tends not to lead ruts. That's why it's
Okay.
Would be cool.
Thank you. Do others have questions or want Matt to speak to more of the detail of his plan?
And look through some site visits from that site visit that Matt mentions in the application from last year. I have the photos from that. We haven't done a commission site visit to the site. We have that scheduled for tomorrow. I noted that in your sheet. So you want to sort of maybe talk us through, Matt, what we're seeing as we go through as best as you can see from from my dad images.
I think that is autumn olive or yeah, I think that's autumn olive. Shiny silvery foliage. That's a variety. That's some calorie pears and maybe some native crab apples. Maybe honeysuckle, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that might have been. These images are from April, so things were just starting to leaf out.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that maybe multiflora or a rose. And that's just looks like old goldenrod. Can't tell exactly.
Yeah, so we're in the buffer zone area here. So I will say Matt didn't we used in our conversations about this the delineation from the NET 2019 NOI, assuming that it's roughly close. Obviously that delineation has expired, but the commission required the placing of stones along the line there. So it's a really nice visible location of where at least the wetland line was when this work was originally permitted for the construction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is this the grafting?
Yeah.
Somebody's grafting things.
Yeah. That was a neat discovery. Somebody was grafting on the calorie pears. And we figured out who it is. And,
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I hit the streets of Easthampton for some old, hit up some old contacts and found the pirate grafter. They're pretty, so when this is all over, I gotta write about this because it's a funny little Easthampton story.
Okay.
But we found the pirate grafter, and who I guess was possibly in violation of the Wetland Protection Act, just they're altering the wetland for the better. I hope that river
In the buffer zone.
Yeah.
Are they
I mean, it's very
grafting
minor, very
native
minor.
species? Just
They're grafting there's no native pears. There are wild culinary pears that are neither invasive nor native.
Okay.
And they were grafting scion wood of those, like for cider, onto the invasive pears, which is a great idea. I'm
Fascinating.
excited about. I hope River Valley can overlook the sort of intrusion on their property without permission or a conversation, because it will hopefully bring people's attention to the issue of invasives. It's a very creative approach. I know.
So Matt, did you determine you're gonna work around the grafting projects?
That's kind of up to River Valley Market and this person, and I'm not sure what they're deciding. I connected them and said, I have a conversation. I can work around them, because there's not that many. There's maybe a dozen.
Okay.
So just to summarize, so you're looking at herbicide treatment with mowing also of the field area, buffer zone only or buffer zone and in resource area to address invasives.
Over what time span?
So year one, the client wanted to divide it into 3 years for cost purposes. And so year one will be the third of the meadow closest to the road. And then year two would be sort of the center wetter section, which has fewer woody shrubs established. Because they're sort of like a denser understory, and maybe just more hydrate conditions prevent the germination of a lot of these invasives, and so on.
Luckily, there isn't a lot of Phragmites in this site.
No, I haven't seen
any
Phragmites.
which is great.
Yeah.
That's good. Where's the knotweed? I haven't noticed that at the site.
It's just a clump in the middle. It's one of these. Someone dumped it off there.
Yeah.
With a truck somewhere. It just kind of stayed there.
What a great opportunity to feed it back now.
Yeah. Yep.
So is that in the middle or?
It's kind of, it is in the middle section, and that was one that I was going to address in year one, just because it's a multi-year project,
Yeah.
knotweed almost more than most other invasives, so better start sooner. So that would be the one area of the Y2 that would be addressed in Y1.
Okay.
And it's, I don't know, it's maybe 1,000 square feet, maybe probably less.
And so is year three then actually in resource area?
Year two
Year
is.
two is.
Oh, only year two. So it gets drier again in the third section?
Yeah, it's
Okay, okay,
lower in the
Middle.
middle, and it's along the length of it.
okay.
I wondered if the commission wanted to issue a 5-year order for this, allowing Matt to continue with follow-up treatments for those last 2 years, for 2 additional years past the 3 scheduled treatment years, to avoid just the need for an extension.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, agreed. Anytime people are willing to continue their invasive management, we are more than happy to support.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Are we gonna vote on this tonight, or are we gonna wait for the site visit?
The commission's discretion. We do have the site visit scheduled, so we'll get some updated images for the record regardless, and could be an opportunity for commissioners to see it. I think if commissioners would like to see it before voting on it, we certainly can wait until next meeting.
I'm perfectly
voting on it.
comfortable
Yeah,
voting
I'm
on it. Yeah,
Comfortable.
Do we want to just really fast, actually, just review the comments from DP, please? And these came to us from Mary Grover because it's an ecological restoration limited project.
No, I just assigned it to her. I didn't want to do it.
Okay, great.
No, I know Matt, and I didn't want it to influence.
Oh, okay,
My
conflict of
Gotcha.
interest. Gotcha. Okay, great. So, just that we needed to review the requirements for ecological restoration limited project as well as the included appendix A. This commission has done vegetation management ecological restoration limited projects before, so we are clear that they qualify. We have proof that the notice was published in the environmental monitor. I have that in my files. The applicant has not provided a map of the area subject to protection that will be temporary or permanently altered by the project. However, the year one is proposed in the buffer zone, but the BBW has not been delineated. So as I just said, and then this interest is for, the applicant has not provided the method for BBW and other resource area boundary delineations. We're fortunate to have a relatively recent wetland delineation by wetland scientists on this site as well. The presumption of this project is that we will be in wetland treating invasives. So I felt from my professional judgment that a more precise delineation was not necessary here.
I would concur. How did we handle the calculation of impacts on the forms? Was it done generously? Do we feel comfortable that it's more inclusive rather than less inclusive since we don't have a precise boundary?
In terms of this number, Matt, this 174,240.
That's the entire 4-acre locus. That's the entire parcel.
So then, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, I don't feel like we need to worry about, we have a good sense from the previous efforts of where the wetlands are. And as long as we know that we aren't underselling the impact, given the nature of the work, I'm comfortable with it.
So you're not losing wetlands, so the number will be the same.
That's true. Yes, it should be placed, that same number should be under the proposed replacement category.
Right.
Does that make sense, Matt?
You're not losing wetlands. So the amount altered is going to be the same as the amount restored.
It's confusing though, because it's titled as proposed replacement and you're not replacing it.
Right,
You're
that's what
just-
I was thinking of, like compensatory wetland, like if
Yeah.
you're developing something, you gotta put a wetland over here. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that, so.
The forms are tricky when you're doing, the forms and the terminology are tricky when you're doing restoration because it doesn't feel quite right.
It's not designed for that.
Yeah,
really.
but yes, if you are, it's because you basically have temporary impacts. So you're
Yeah.
impacting it, but
Right.
then it's all going to still be the same resource area after the fact.
Right.
So we would put the same number at both columns.
Right. Oh.
I'm with
So
you
what-
personally, but just personally. Yeah,
I mean, I'm in the camp that it shouldn't be called an impact.
Mhm.
It should be a different word, but we don't have the room in the regulations for that.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
It's an alteration and it's being made better.
Yeah.
Well, technically, if you look at the definition of alter, one of them is destruction of vegetation.
Right. So that's what it is referring to.
Yeah. But invasive species in a wetland have no presumptive value.
Right, correct.
So you're not altering, if everything's done right, you're not altering the native vegetation.
Doesn't say native in the definition though.
It doesn't. It just says,
It's not perfect.
All right.
I think it's just an interesting conversation about the law, but the act. I mean, isn't the presumption to look at the interest of the act if the language is somehow clear?
Right, but the act itself, 130-140, doesn't get into the detail, the definitions like the regulations do.
Okay.
So you gotta look at sometimes both, the act and the regulations.
Somewhere I read the names of species. I think it was in the act where it
It's in the
mentions
act,
specific
yes.
species, and they're all native species, I believe, to preserve wetland species such as.
Right. They
So that's where you
enumerated
get hemlock, it's considered a wetland. Yeah.
because it's enumerated. Right.
Yeah.
does anyone feel like they want to do a site visit before we close the hearing
I
and vote
don't
on
think
this?
so. I don't, we're familiar with the
Okay.
site, so.
We site visit every week.
Many times a week for me. Yeah. Can we have a motion to close the public
I'll
hearing?
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
So moved. Do we have a motion to issue an order?
Jay, it's your job.
Well, I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions, but are there any conditions?
Yeah, I will probably, I think I'll pull the conditions that we applied for the Arcadia
Okay,
vegetation management. I don't have them drafted for you. So I'll draft them together for our next meeting. And again, you'll plan to have an issued order the week of the 22nd
so
of June.
a motion condition or conditions using those conditions
5 year.
Oh, yeah.
for 5 years. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
For
you.
bearing with us.
Okay.
So, so Matt, as I said, it'll be issued the week of the 22nd, if that works okay for your timeline.
Yep.
And then, you'll have to record it at the registry of deeds and send me proof of that recording.
Right.
And then once, which, best practices has you wait 10 days till the appeal period is up, but you're welcome to risk it if you'd like to. And then once that's one of the pre-construction conditions, that'll be one of our pre-treatment conditions for the project. And once all your pre-treatment conditions are met, which we'll review on the 22nd, we'll issue all the things we need from you before you can begin.
Okay, if I could just iterate what you just, so I'm gonna wait until the 22nd till I get that
The
done,
order. Mhm.
and then I can record it at my will at that point.
Yes, technically there is a 10-day, I'm saying this because Mark is here and it's important to communicate. There is a 10-day appeal period in which an abutter could appeal or 10 members of the public could appeal.
Why wouldn't that, so why did I have to notify them prior to the hearing? So they can show up.
Because they have a right to be here.
They have a right to be here,
Hearing, meaning the butters can speak.
but then they have a right to
They have a right-
respond to the OOCs.
Yep.
If
They
they
have a
object to
right to
OOCs.
appeal the.
And so if you go ahead and
get it.
record the order and then someone appeals, you could have to unrecord the order.
It is highly
Unlikely,
unlikely,
yeah.
given the nature of the work, that anyone would appeal
I mean, I would think
in
that
this case.
if it were next to, yeah, I could imagine scenario. You would think that they would be here now attending the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah, usually it's,
A clue.
yeah, I would agree. If it's a hearing that has been going on for a long time and people are packing the room.
Yeah.
Then you might
Wait for
worry
10
about
days.
an appeal.
We
For
have-
invasive management, when no one has showed up, I don't think you're gonna have any concerns.
Right, okay. And then that'll be, as part of my order will be the WM report, the WM report permit and then. Or maybe not.
Well, it doesn't have to be, you're gonna have to get it anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But that will likely be a pre-treatment condition that you have it in hand. Yeah.
Your pirate grafter might appeal. If we did it better.
She should, yeah, she should.
Didn't
Right.
show up tonight, so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming, Matt.
Yes,
We'll
thank
be in
you.
touch.
We'll be in touch. Yeah, I'll come out to the site tomorrow to get updated
Oh,
photos.
yeah, we'll be there.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks. Good to see you.
Just as a point of interest for the commission, I don't know, I can't remember when this was filed relative to the passing of our ordinance, but this project would have been exempt under our new ordinance because we included a more expansive list of restoration activities that were exempt. So we would not have had to review this under
Yes.
our local ordinance. All right, moving on. Request for certificates of compliance. Are we speaking about 6973 Loudville tonight?
We are.
Okay.
Yep. And we have Cole,
Oh, we do still have
Moodstow,
something. Okay.
online, who's here to speak for that. Again, Cole, I'll say the same thing. Thank you for your patience.
So this
Oh,
is
thank you.
6973 Loudville Road, Mass DEP file number 1510309. And I'll turn it over to you, Cole.
Sure. Anyways, thanks for having me tonight, guys. My name's Cole Modesto from R. Levesque Associates. We're representing the client for this project. I'll step across him. I guess everyone's very familiar with this project, and as far as the letter that was issued has been received and addressed, what you're looking at is the revised as-built. The two areas that in question here that have been revised are this northwesterly side, down on kind of plan bottom left here. That limit of work has been expanded and addressed on the as-built with the marked rebar, the cap marked rebar, and the northerly most portion, which is arguably the more important part here, has been denoted as the unpermitted disturbance area It has been remarked and shown on the plan. And we recognize the need to restore it, and we have every intention of doing so.
And I will
And-
say that
Yeah,
our
was
Levex,
sorry.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry.
We didn't hear that last bit, Cole. Can you repeat?
Oh, no, I was just saying, I was trying to turn it back over. Sorry.
Okay, great.
okay, and so I have a letter as well from our Levex Associates, just stating that we acknowledge that additional clearance will be restored under the special permit. At this time, we do not anticipate that, well, they say that they don't anticipate this will hold up a COC per our previous conversations. We have spoken with the developer this morning. They're aware the restoration work will need to take place. So they have put it in writing that they also see that this restoration work, beyond the permitted limit of work, will need to take place. I issued the letter that the commission reviewed at the last meeting. And I issued a hard copy. I delivered a hard copy to every unit on site. So cheaper than mailing, just took a walk around and hand delivered them to the units. And the president of the HOA has it in hand. She has it in her emails. I do believe that the unit owners will be made aware of this. I think the language in here is fairly clear and firm that the commission expects that that back area to be, the commission, the city, we expect that back area to be restored in alignment with their special permit, which is considered a part of Easthampton zoning law. So we have left it as far as we have taken it as far as we can take it. And we are not holding up the COC for it at this time.
Great. Sounds good. So we're ready to issue that.
Oh, the only other thing, Cole, that I would like is a hard copy of the as-built, the corrected as-built. I'd like a 24x36 copy for our records.
Yeah, totally. We can, I can have that brought in tomorrow.
Great.
So we are looking to issue a complete certification that the work has been satisfactorily completed with ongoing conditions that are numbered 63 to 70. Would folks like me to review what those are? Or have you had a chance to take a look at ongoing conditions already?
Yeah.
I feel like we've probably talked about them over the last 2 years, quite a bit.
Too good to be true. Move to issue a certificate of compliance for Mass DP file number 1510309. That I forget some of my brain said that a complete certification and with the ongoing conditions number 63 through 70.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Great, Cole. So this this certificate of compliance will come to your office via certified mail, return receipt requested, unless there's a different address you would like me to send it to. It needs to be recorded at the registry.
Sure, yeah. This is a great location for it. Thank you.
Okay, I will send it to our Levex office. I will also email you a hard copy. Thank you for being here for this very last meeting for this item.
Yeah, no, I'm honored. It was supposed to be Ryan, but he actually just had himself a baby girl, so he's gonna be out.
And congratulations.
I will. Yeah, he's very, very busy at the moment.
I can imagine.
Well, thank you
Just
for your
want
time
to
today,
note
guys.
for the commission, this historic moment, this project was opened. We received the application on June 17th, 2020.
It's been a while. No, right in the heart of
Right in the
COVID.
middle of it, yeah, right at the beginning.
Still trying to figure out how to run remote meetings.
Still washing my hands of beans.
Right. All right. Anything
Right.
on enforcement?
Good night, Cole.
Nothing on enforcement.
Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Does somebody else have to
Still
sign this?
washing
Cause I
hands.
screwed up.
You're fine. Yeah, everyone's signed.
That's why I stuck around, because I thought Brody's name on that.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, there's, not much hope for getting anywhere on that anytime soon.
Someday. It's an enforcement order from 2013.
Open space updates. I know we have news on Borkowski.
Yeah, we do. We
And I
have
don't
two,
want to slight it.
we have two pieces of news from Borkowski.
Okay,
So the, thank you.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help tonight.
Okay,
thank you.
You guys are awesome, and you got a fantastic agent.
We really do.
Yes, we did.
And we're all gonna vote to make sure that we have the money to keep
That's
her here.
correct.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we have two pieces to talk about for Borkowski. One that's very fun and one that's a little bit less fun. Should we do the less fun one first?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're getting some complaints from users of the parcel that quads are using the site,
Mhm.
and that there's unpermissioned, unapproved trail building happening. So we got this note that quads and motorcycles are heavily using the trails now. There are some residents that have trail cams on our property that have been sending me footage of those. So
Interesting.
I think I want to have a conversation with the commission about two items. I want to have a conversation about what steps we might want to take to discourage unpermitted trail building and usage of motorized vehicles on our property. So that's one issue, right?
Mhm.
Unpermitted trail building, which we installed those signs. The
Yep.
commission saw those signs, that the laminated signs that say, "Dear trail builders, please contact the conservation commit. We'd like to be in touch regarding this trail building. Please be in touch." So those are installed. I believe I staple gun 10 of them out there. There's quite a few across the newest trail builds. So the trails that are like actively being built and worked on. But there's clearly still some trail building happening. And there's also quads and motorcycles that are utilizing the site.
Mhm.
This concerned resident seems to really believe that the trail building is encouraging the trail widening is encouraging heavier usage of motorized vehicles.
Building it for quads, not for mountain bikes.
Yeah, that's not actually what I'm seeing out there. I'm seeing sketchy mountain bike trails being built that the commission does not condone and in fact would like to cease immediately.
Mhm.
But I'm not seeing quad trails being built. However, I think the site is perhaps picking up a little bit in popularity. It's been talked about a lot. I think quads are here. So
Yeah.
how we want to address quads and dirt bikes, that's kind of our two things there that are utilizing the parcel. That's one question. And then the next question I want to have is the trail cameras.
Surveillance.
Yeah, the surveillance, the trail cameras of footage of recreational users of the site that I've been receiving in my inbox, which I'm
Are they being taken from the property of the owner of the camera?
no.
Okay.
They're trail cameras installed on our property.
Okay, that's right.
So I have not had a chance to really review what's allowed there. I believe trail cameras need to be installed with permission of the property owner.
I would think so. But I know people use them for hunting and hunting
Right, that's what I was.
often. Yeah, like you can set up what we were talking about this briefly with the Boy Scout parcel about you can set up a tree stand without
Or deer hunting.
necessarily having permission, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know if those fall into the same category, but if they're not being used for hunting, then I wouldn't think that kind of exemption applied. I don't know. We've never run into this.
No.
I don't know what the rules are,
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that.
but I don't love the idea of people spying on other people just to, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not what I'm
Weird.
It's not what I'm looking. I mean, I think if the commission wants to install trail cameras at some point for either from an enforcement perspective or from a wildlife tracking perspective, I think we could consider that at Borkowski parcel. It might be a strategy we want to take near some of the unpermitted trail building. But I think the idea that we are having some deputized citizens who are installing trail cameras, I personally am not a fan of.
Mhm.
So if you were a private landowner and you found these, it could be considered trespassing, right? The person would have had to trespass to install them. Here, obviously, these are publicly accessed lands.
Is there anything in any city charter that says anything about cameras or any kind of situation?
And the other thing is, if where I have seen conservation organizations use cameras to keep an eye on trails, they're always posted, so it's very clear so that people, because I mean, for lots of reasons, right?
Right.
Like you're out in the woods and you have to pee and like you want to know if there's a camera around, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's the signs that deter.
Exciting.
But sometimes putting a sign out there that, cameras are.
Well,
cameras
it's
are
the
in place.
invasion of privacy.
Yeah, and there's limits on the expectation of privacy when you're on public property.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't really exist, but it's still, if you're in the woods and you're not expecting to have cameras.
But the sign saying there's trail cameras or, cameras could deter some activities.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
whether those cameras or not.
For discussion and education, and not because I'm trying to throw sticks in the spokes. Nobody would have a problem if I brought my iPhone camera or personal camera out and took pictures of people with quads or motorbikes on the trails. And yet we're drawing a distinction between a camera which is mounted. And I bring this up for my education and discussion. I'm not quite sure where that line is. And do we need to worry about it?
Mm-hmm.
If you had your cell phone,
They
would
would
there be a
be-
person
You'd be
holding
announcing
the phone?
yourself.
You could, yeah,
Yep,
you'd be
that you're
announcing.
announcing yourself by just being present.
Right, yep, okay.
That to me is
And so that's a good point.
Yeah. It's not hidden.
Subversive.
You have to make yourself known if you're
Yep.
doing that.
Maybe we should research on our own and come back at
Yeah.
the next meeting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Almost, my
Somebody's dealing with
inclination is
somewhere.
that it's better if private residents do it compared to like the
You do it.
city, because people would go nuts if it was like, city surveillance.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I don't know. That's just me. I could be completely off base.
But we also have some level of responsibility for things that are going on our property. So
Well, let's see how other communities
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be- We're not the first people who have to deal with this, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can reach out to some of our conservation, neighbors, like I can check in with, I'm sure Kestrel has dealt with this. I mean, any property owner that owns
Yeah.
a lot of land, I'm sure has found unpermitted, unpermissioned trail cameras. I mean, I'm uncomfortable with the kind of footage I'm receiving, and some of the assumptions that the person sending the footage is making. That it's mountain bikers with tools in their backpacks. And that is the one that they're drawing a lot of conclusions that, I mean,
because the imagery isn't catching somebody doing.
it's not catching someone on
Yeah.
a quad and it's not catching someone actively building a trail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's not actionable information there unless we jump to a lot of conclusions.
Exactly, which I'm not comfortable doing, particularly because while the Conservation Commission does not condone any current trail building or maintenance at Borkowski parcel, particularly while we're in this permitting process,
Mhm.
the way I see it from a logical perspective is that there are different degrees of work that people are doing out there.
Mhm.
There are people who are building unsafe trails,
I mean,
causing new impact, and there's maintenance of existing
Yeah,
trails.
somebody's
Yeah.
like snipping an overhanging branch or
Right.
whatever.
Right. And there are mountain bikers who just kind of as a matter of practice often have tools in their packs
Hmm.
in case there's a downed tree or something, and they may not be using them at all.
since this is never, the camera thing has never come up before on our public properties, could we not just like write to that person and say, thanks for the footage. We can look into possible trail building violations. Please do not take any further footage. It's not like we don't want that on our property, and put up signs that say like no motorized vehicles on these trails.
Yeah, so then that's the other question around the signage.
Right.
Well, if we're not gonna tell everyone to take, if we're not gonna remove every camera, we can't single out one person though, right?
But there's only one person who has cameras up right now,
Do we
right?
know where the
That's
cameras
true.
are? You
Yeah.
just received footage, but
There might be
I
live
don't know where.
hunters who
Yeah.
have cameras out.
That's correct.
Right. Who knows?
Yeah, but they're looking for animals.
I also think that overall,
Right.
how can you distinguish between one or the other without some more substantive basis? The other thing that, I mean, having the footage doesn't really do anything because we don't know where those people are. We're not catching them in the act of doing the thing. So if we're trying to discourage the use of the quads, I think it's much more functional to have it posted so that people are comfortable knowing what is or isn't allowed. And then if people are out there and they see it, that gives them a little bit of, you know, whether they're comfortable doing it or not is another question, but that gives them something to say like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that in here.
Right.
And
Yes.
that, I think, creating that culture is what we've talked about with the mountain biking, right? And how having the sanctioned trails will give people the ability to say, hey, like we created this trail system for everybody to use, but for it to work, like we need you to not be building the other trails. So I think it's that sort of culture of people understanding the rules and being comfortable to speak to other people, not take pictures and then send them to us where we can't really do anything with it. It's where we need to get to ultimately.
Right. Yeah, so what do we want to do from that? I mean, the issue with quad ones, this is our largest conservation parcel. It's very large. I happen to know just from like where you can see tracks in the winter and a lot of anecdotal evidence that most of the quads are entering from private property. So they're not entering at one of our
You're not
trailheads.
driving down Hendrick Street.
They are not driving down
trailers
Kendall
somewhere, yeah,
Street
yeah.
right next to Peter Borchowski's house. They're
Right.
not doing that. They're entering
Yeah.
from private accesses, trails off of Hendrick Street.
Yeah.
Do we want more laminated sides? I'm like, we're gonna cover this parcel in laminated sides with staple
I mean,
guns.
what we did last time was we, contacted longtime residents and told them to tell their relatives to knock it off. I'm like, I don't know.
Totally. I mean, do we allow ski mobiling? That's a winter. In the winter?
Snowmobile
Snowmobiling? Yeah, sorry.
I was like, what is this word? What are you talking about? To get there.
No, Cranmore had ski mobile.
I am not aware that there are any sanctioned snowmobile trails in there. No.
But it's a motorized vehicle, so it would probably be not allowed, right?
Yeah.
Well, we could, in addition to posting everywhere, as you say, blazoning every tree with the signs, we could mail all the abutters the same information. If that's where the trails are originating.
I mean, I think it's how much does the commission want to escalate this right now?
Yeah. The other thing,
That is an option, Jared. Yeah.
does our documentation for this site, I'm forgetting the word, the conservation restriction, does it allow or disallow this activity? Or
We
is that
don't
a
have-
larger conversation?
We don't have a conservation
We
restriction on
don't
this
have one,
property.
that's right.
It was
Okay.
purchased with grant funding. The various parcels were purchased with different grant funding throughout the 90s. They're all under Article 97,
Mhm.
except for one little piece of the one because they were purchased with grant funding that required them to be permanently protected. I mean, there is a lot. I just like want to zoom out for a second and just say, like, we're doing a lot of work on this parcel, and we're going to continue doing a lot of work on this parcel. And we need to get a baseline documentation report of this parcel real bad so we can actually get some documentation. We need to come up with a management plan for this parcel. Some like real concrete rules and regulations. The only thing we have is the draft management plan from when Borchowski parcel proper was added to the system in 2000. And that's the piece that says no motorized vehicles. But it wasn't even ever finalized by the commission.
Okay.
Like we're under paperworked for this parcel. And right now, all my capacity for this parcel is being taken up by this extremely complicated natural heritage permitting process.
Yep.
Which I have now, 2 years into this job, understanding why nothing's ever been done on this parcel because of how challenging it has already been with natural heritage, and we're not even that close.
Mhm.
you know, which I was trying to communicate that to the mountain bikers this
Yeah.
weekend. They're like, we're almost there, right? We're gonna build it. And I was like,
No.
it still pretty much remains to be seen whether or not Natural Heritage will let us build anything new out here.
So we might need those trail builders.
I mean, I just think maybe at some point, maybe next winter, we should triage a little bit this parcel. I'm curious if the commission feels like there is anything urgent that needs to be done regarding the quads. It'd be worth it for a couple commissioners to take a walk and see how much damage y'all are seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely contributes to the erosion, but until we're prepared to do work to repair the erosion, I don't know how urgent it is, I guess.
I guess to me, it depends on how extensive the quad use is and how extensive it is.
Yeah.
If it's just a couple here and there and it's not during a muddy time, then maybe it's not. Yeah, but if it's every day.
Yeah.
During mud season, then maybe it is.
And frankly, I mean, I'm also concerned about the people that the runners that go in there and leaf blow the trails, which is also differently, but leads to the same problem. So
yeah. We have runners.
I appreciate you bringing us back up to the perspective of where we actually are with the whole thing. So, you know, baby steps.
Yeah. So I'll do a site visit in the next couple weeks, perhaps before our next meeting. I'll do a site visit, see if I'm seeing acute damage from the quads, and then we can figure out if we want to do more laminated signs or if we want to do letters to the abutters / Dan calling up his buddies. Telling them,
Not my
telling them
only lived for 20 years.
Adding signage though on all of them.
Yeah, eventually Borchowski will have one. Yeah.
That'd be the second one and we just add no more vehicles.
We could. I mean, but we had knocked Borchowski lower on the list because it has a working sign currently.
right.
But
Okay, so that's where you put your illuminated sign is on the working sign.
or deeper in the parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, or both. More laminated signs.
I'm in favor of you getting eyes on it when you have time and seeing if there is something going on that is so concerning in terms of damage that you feel like it needs immediate action.
Okay.
Or if we can let some of the other things that we're working on take priority here for the moment.
Okay. And I'm gonna keep reminding these citizens who are emailing me that our rules state that there are no quads and to please inform people they see on the parcel. Yeah, please inform your neighbors.
If you're there seeing it, please tell them.
Right.
We're not there seeing it.
All right, what's the good news?
All right, the good news. Okay, the good news. Hooray. Okay, so on Saturday, we started here at 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm. That looks
And
familiar.
That looks familiar. And we ended here at 5 p.m. And that was my core squad. We started with 21 volunteers that lugged in all this lumber, so much lumber, and lugged out the old bridge material all the way back out to the road. A lot of kids, a lot of grown-ups, teenagers, the whole mix. And then there was a crew of about 8, I would say, that worked through the morning on the initial build. We can see some images of this as I'm talking through it. So these are current cyclists and alumni of mountain bike and cyclocross programs working on destroying the existing bridge. No one got wet who didn't want to get wet.
Nice.
That was a win. This guy squatting down here is Chris Nielsen, who is like a licensed carpenter. So he was kind of leading the build side of it. It was great to have him on board. He was like a really just like clear-eyed, like, and now we do this and now we do that. There was not a lot of redoing things. There was not a lot of mistakes made. It was a very orderly process. Here we've got some cyclist kids carrying stuff out. They were all racing the next day, so they were stopping to like eat bananas and properly hydrate. It's pretty awesome. And here's what was underneath the bridge. Installed 25 years ago, or 26 years ago, we learned the bridge was installed by Richland Lombard in 2000 on these old telephone poles. And the determination was that the telephone poles, because of God only knows what they treat them with.
So.
Remains sturdy.
Yep.
With a little bit of bounce, right?
Yep.
Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
There we are. That is Al. Al was kind of our team lead who organized a lot of the young people to come out here. This is another cyclist. A neighbor came by, came by with her dog and saw us logging lumber out and said, "Hey, that's so cool. I work for a catering company. I have a tray of tiramisu in my house. Can I bring it out for you guys?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Decidedly.
Yes. So there's the tiramisu.
No, I'm extra sad that I missed it.
And this gives you a sense, this is only maybe a quarter of the lumber we hauled down, but here's the bridge in process.
How to get my kids to go down.
There was a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can really see it's just a real mix. Yeah, some Boy Scouts came out and joined us. Here's some kids working on it. They had a whole like assembly line going, placing them, drilling them. It's awesome. I took these photos for you, Julie, just while we were down there. This is where we're going to install. Yeah, we'll have to talk a little bit more about what exactly you're looking for in here. Here we are under the bridge. That's Keith. Keith's an alum of Al's cyclocross program. He lives in Connecticut now. He never rides these trails, but he just came up to help for the day. Really great. These two boys had so much fun destroying the old bridge. They seemed like they were just having the time of their life. There's Chris as we built it. And then we extended, so the telephone poles are right under here, and we extended the frame to provide the necessary ramp for the bikes to join on. And here it is when it's done. And these mats are old post office conveyor belts that were on.
Like big conveyor belts.
Rich from Lombard had installed them on the original bridge, and we used the same ones. They were in great shape. They're their anti-slick, material. And we, Ben Jankowski, another one of the 3 folks who stayed out all day. Oh yeah, here's Al. This is the end, the Gatorade. So right here, this was my core crew. After lunch, it was just the 4 of us. So it was Al, it was Ben Jankowski, and Chris Neeson, right, Noel? Neeson.
Yeah.
And so Ben Jankowski, at one point, we didn't have the 4th. We had made the bridge longer because we'd extended the ramp up here a little bit. So we needed another nonstick. So we biked over to Rich Lombard's garage where Rich has been storing these for 26 years. And he latched it onto his bike and he biked back with it, and then we installed it. And that was the final piece.
Yeah.
And it was a great day, and it was exhausting, which I think Al shows correctly. It's an exhausting day.
It's hot on Saturday.
Yeah, it was hot on Saturday. We had some good refreshments. I had Gatorades for them and Arizona iced teas, and we had the tiramisu and some muffins.
Excellent. Yeah.
And I just want to note that it was just a really awesome volunteer effort. 21 people came out, really put in, thousands of dollars of labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this in a single day.
Yep.
The commission paid for the lumber. The lumber cost is going to come out to $1,600, I believe, and then another, $200 for the food I bought for the crew. So really a great opportunity to just a real lasting presence. I think it's going to have a real lasting presence on our parcel. Should be another 25 years.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you so much for organizing,
Sure,
and
definitely.
thank you for highlighting and naming all the folks that came out. And
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. Should be good.
Agree.
Good.
Yep.
All right.
Is Easthampton Conservation News, is that a new item? Or is that all
No,
there?
that's been there. I don't have anything there except to say that now the bridge is behind us, we should find a time to install our sign at Oliver Street.
Yes.
But I'll coordinate with Al on that, and then I'll invite you all. I want to do not
Yeah.
really a ribbon
Yeah.
cutting, but an installation, moment.
That sounds great. Okay. All right. I forget which compliance updates we need to talk about. Can you walk?
Yes, I can walk us through.
Run this through.
Yeah, I'll run us through. So I think I'm just gonna flag for you just because it's late. We've been here for a long time. But we do now have pre-construction. We've started, like, as of today, started getting the pre-construction requirements for the Route 5 shared use path.
Okay.
So those are kind of robust and they're in here, and the SWIP is 481 pages long. But I haven't even started reviewing them, so I'll review them for the next meeting and the commissioners can review them for the next meeting. They wrote that they did that flood contingency plan. Remember that special condition we made them do because they're storing stuff and bordering lines of flooding, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's coming. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys under open orders.
Okay.
A couple RDA updates, just really fast. We got another Harnett Manhan quarterly update.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's good. It was kind of a tough moment as that was all going down, but I think it really did result in really reducing usage of the site. I think NEF successfully closed the area.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a slow revegetation process, but it'll hopefully happen.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. And the fishing platform is just started today. They're reinstalling it. So they've got double wattles staked. And they've got some funny things going on there and there, but they're trying to protect the pond from as much disturbance as possible. Good. Should be good. All right.
No minutes.
No minutes. Just the success of the wetlands ordinance is all I just have to acknowledge. This is first time I've seen all of you since we passed it. So we thank you all for all your work on it. Thank you all for coming out. Those of you who were at one of the meetings for it. We have the Easthampton Wetlands Ordinance.
Yeah.
Perhaps next. I know it's very exciting.
Thank you for making this a reality.
For sure. Yeah. Julie and I finalized the form. So the form is posted on the website. It's right at the top of our Conservation Commission page. So is the fee schedule. So is the text of the ordinance. The ordinance still doesn't have its sections correct. So I'm going to wait to give you guys a hard copy, the rest of you a hard copy until it's like actually in the city ordinance so that we all have the same section references and page numbers. And I'll just update yours. But we'll start next. Any new applications we receive, if they're applicable to the ordinance, we'll begin reviewing them for applicability to the ordinance. Yes.
Awesome.
Good. Anything else?
Motion
Make a
adjourned.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.